Hello and what's up, GSC Pokemon Challenges fam? How you guys doing? We are back. It's episode 14 of the Clair Minimum Battles series. We're getting very close to being done here. And today we're coming in with a bunch of new challengers that we're going to just have to see how they actually go in this section. We're coming in with Scyther, which means, of course, its evolved form Scizor is in the action. We've got Pinsir, Forretress, Shuckle, and Heracross, all as member pick Pokemon in the bug type. So we're going to see how all of those go. Plus, we've got all of our evolutions, including the Jolteon and Flareon that are member picks. So a lot of member pick Pokemon coming in this one, but you'll see that after this, we've only got 3 member picks left up there to still be done from now. And we can see we're making a lot of progress. Somebody commented on the previous video, sorry, I'm going to forget whose name to shout out here, that I should add a progress bar to this. So you can see down there on the right side of today's challengers, it tells us out of the total number of Pokemon that were here, how many have been completed up to this point. And you can see we're getting pretty close. It's just going to be like 3 more episodes tops to complete this section, which is what I'm getting really excited for. I'm ready to be done with Clair. I think a lot of people are. She hasn't been a challenge so far, with 98 Pokemon legitimately getting through, plus 5 more getting through with struggle. And I predict that nothing today struggles in this section except possibly Eevee. I think everything else is going to find a way. Still, definitely drop your own predictions down below, but without further ado, I'm going to get into this bug and evolution episode. We're going to lead off with our Scizor, since it's the only technically evolved bug here, and then we will step down to Scyther, which is legitimately in the action, and then we will go through all the bug type member picks. And then in the second half of the video, we're going to be getting into all of the evolutions, which I think will be a lot of fun. So let's get into it. So first things first, we've got our Scizor. We're coming in with Headbutt, Agility, Fury Cutter, and Metal Claw. I think Agility is massive here since we're not a super fast Pokemon. It should give us a lot of opportunities to outspeed, say against Clair when we get there. So we're just going to have to see how this goes. Now I'm going to be playing with a ton of speed up as usual to just get through this whole rocket section. As a steel type, I don't expect to struggle too much here, since most of these Pokemon can't even damage us with their poison type moves. So I think we're going to have decent chances, but let's just see how it actually goes. Now here via level up, we get to learn Slash with our Scizor, and I'm going to throw this on over Headbutt. We could always relearn Headbutt if we wanted, but I think maybe the high critical hit chance could help us here. So that's what I'm going to go for. Still in this section, I think Metal Claw is mostly the right play, but of course some Pokemon will resist the steel type, in which case we'll switch over to either Fury Cutter or to that Slash to try to get through. And with no issues whatsoever, we make it to the Marlboro Man at the top of this section. He can't affect us with his poison type moves, and we resist normal type moves. So I think we've got this one nice and easy, but who knows? Maybe he just lowers my accuracy so much that I can't hit. Let's find out. So Marlboro Man attempt number 1. We go Metal Claw here. It's going to be a 2-hit KO on these coughings. That makes me think maybe going for the Slash and trying to get the crits is the way to go here. Fortunately, none of these Pokemon can really do all that much to a Scizor, so eventually we should be able to get through this. It looks like a 3-hit KO here on the Wheezing with Slash, but still its tackles do nothing. So we're easily getting through that Pokemon. The Scyther coming up might actually struggle a lot more here. We'll have to see. But here we just slash down the last coughing, and just like that, we're ready to move on in the game. We're on to the basement and rival number 4, who leads off with that Golbat. It will have neutral damage with its wing attack, so we aren't going to be great there, but we do have pretty good defense, so I think we'll be just fine. Let's see how this goes. We might have to build up with the Fury Cutter to get through. We might have to throw on a Paralyzed Cure Berry or something. I'm honestly not sure, but let's just test this and see how it actually goes. So Rival 4 attempt number 1, I'm going to lead off with Agility. I want to make sure that I'm faster than everything here. Now we can go Metal Claw on the Golbat. It's a 2-hit KO. Unfortunately, we are confused and we're taking a lot of damage here. So we end up with only 6 HP when we get through that first Pokemon. That was kind of bad luck. Here we can slash on the Quilava, and we will need the critical hit to one-shot that Pokemon. So let's try this one again. So knowing what I know now, I think that we go Slash here. I'm still going to set up an Agility just to outspeed outspeed everything, and then we will knock that Pokemon out. Out comes the Quilava next. We hit ourselves in confusion, and Flame Wheel is 4 times super effective, so we get completely wrecked. Bitterberry is likely the correct play here to avoid that confusion status. That is what's destroying us. Let's see if adding the Bitterberry helps. So now we can get through to Quilava without confusion. The problem is that we're going to have to one-hit KO there if we're going to get through, and we didn't get the luck to get that on this attempt. So anyway we do it, this is going to be a little bit random. Slash does give us the higher crit chance, which is what I think we actually need for the Quilava. So we're just going to reset for that level of luck. Of course, we can also survive here if we're on high enough health and just two-shot that Pokemon. Magnemite comes out next. Once again, we don't really have anything good for this Pokemon, which is why I'm going for the Slash. Haunter comes out. This is where I'll switch to the Metal Claw to take that Pokemon down. And Sneasel, I'm going to Slash since it's not likely to go down to Fury Cutter that easily, but we just one-shot that Pokemon with a critical hit. So we managed to get through in 3 attempts there. Not too bad. And now we're ready to move on in this section where all these randos are basically irrelevant, but Mr. Meet Your Doom might actually be hard if he goes for fire type moves. So we're going to have to see how that goes at the end of this. And here, just before the final Rocket Executive, we also get to learn the move Swords Dance. And this could be the move that's just completely broken here. I think maybe we want Agility Swords Dance and we forget one of our other moves. Slash technically is the one to go since we could always learn another move that is normal type if we really want it. So I'm going to try this. This might be bad just because it comes in right before the executive that's going to resist our steel and bug type moves, but let's just see how this actually goes. So here against Mr. Wannabe Giovanni, I'm going to set up agility first to be faster than everything. Now I'm going to set up a Swords Dance. We get critical hit, 2-hit KO'd by the Houndour here. That's just too bad. Nothing that we can really do about that. But again, I want to make sure that I outspeed the last Pokemon on this team, which is why I'm going for this. But now Metal Claw is enough to one-shot that Pokemon. Out comes Houndoom. We do not quite one-hit KO that Pokemon. So we're going to have to try this one again. Let's just see if we can manage the victory. Maybe it's worth it to just go for the 2 Swords Dances here. If we get burned, of course, we're going to have to reset because that lowers our attack stat. Let's try this again. This time we get to the Houndoom with the 2 Swords Dances set up though, and we just one-shot that Pokemon, and now the Coughing never stood a chance. And just like that, I think we have reasonable chances of getting through this next section. I mean, we've got the Swords Dance strats now. We could set up and go for Fury Cutter, or we can just Swords Dance with like a Paralyzed Cure Berry and then go in for the sweep with the Metal Claw, at least on the Dragonairs on Claire's team, but it might be better to set up with the Fury Cutter there. We'll just have to test this and see. Still, I think that this Pokemon now has everything that it needs because it has access to the Fury Cutter there. But now I think Swords Dance could theoretically carry this Pokemon, and the fact that we have agility to go with it means that we can set up to sweep. We can set up where we get the speed to outspeed all of our opponents, set up the Swords Dances, and then just one-hit KO everything that's in front of us with a particular move. So that's why I'm keeping these 2 moves on the moveset. I think having the speed will be the key to making a lot of fights really quite simple as we progress. In fact, I could see it being the key to us actually being able to get through the entire league. There might be a spot where we have to just get rid of Metal Claw, especially because Steel Wing will come in Kanto as a same type move. So there's a high likelihood that we end up just carrying like 1 damage dealing move to get through a bunch of opponents. I'm honestly not sure how it will work out, but hey, we'll just take it. We'll test everything and see. But I think Scizor has really good chances to get through the league with this agility Swords Dance setup. Now, what I can say is that on the Dragonair just before Claire, I did not one-shot with the Metal Claw without boosting with Swords Dance. So we are going to need some luck here. Of course, if we can get a Thunder Wave miss, we should be able to sweep through everything. Then the real issue is just going to be Claire's Kingdra. So I think we give a Paralyzed Cure Berry here. I'm just going to have to get that on, but that I think is the solution. We set up a Swords Dance, we go in for the sweep. We are already fortunately faster than the entire team here, so there's no need for agility strats against Claire herself. So let's just see how this goes. So I'm setting up Swords Dance first. We get Thunder Wave from the first Dragonair. That's perfectly fine. I'm just going to go Metal Claw after that and one-shot that Pokemon. Second Dragonair comes out and gets completely destroyed. And that brings out the third Dragonair. We completely destroy that Pokemon as well. Now we're to the Kingdra. I'm going to set up my remaining Swords Dance here. Oh, we take massive damage from a critical hit Surf, but we do over half when we hit with the Metal Claw here, and we get the other hit that we need, so we simply win on the first attempt against Claire. She can complain all she wants that she lost and she had us on low health. It doesn't really matter. Swords Dance is kind of OP, and with that, I think that this Scizor is just going to completely crush this next section. We're going to have to get through the rival, of course, but if we can just start setting up on that very first Sneasel that's going to come out on his team, we're going to have super easy chances, I think, to just destroy the entire team of Rival 5. And that I have to I just have to think that that carries on into the league. Like, we might have to quickly knock out this Xatu that comes out first on Willy Boy's team, but at the same time, I mean, Will's not really going to be able to use his psychic moves effectively against a steel type. We're going to have the natural resistance there, so I'm guessing that he's going to go for confusion strats on us, and if we can just survive the confusions, maybe start setting up with the Fury Cutters, we could completely destroy that team. I think Koga's going to give us plenty of chances to set everything up. Bruno, I think we set up on the Hitmontop, get the speed that we need with agility, and then just sweep the team. We might have to figure out what we want to do against Karen just because she's going to be a little bit random, but I think we can get the victory there as well. So I have a lot of confidence that this Pokemon's going to get through the entire Pokemon League. We might have to upgrade a move. We might, again, forget Metal Claw in order to learn something like Max Friendship Return in order to get the job done, but the possibilities are definitely there. Honestly, it's a case where if anything holds us back, it's just the fact that we don't get a wide array of physical moves. So Rival 5 attempt number 1 right here. We're just ready to finish off this section. I'm going to go agility once just to make sure I'm faster than everything. And now I'm just going to set up with all of these Swords Dances. Now let's see what we do with Metal Claw here. It is an easy one-hit KO on that Pokemon. Typhlosion comes out. We hit the Metal Claw and once again one-shot, at least with a crit. Golbat, we go Metal Claw and completely destroy it. That brings out the Magneton. Metal Claw is a 2-hit KO here, but it just goes for Thunder Shock, so we easily KO that Pokemon. Haunter, we have to stick with the Metal Claw and just destroy that one as well, getting to level 46, and now the final Kadabra never stood a chance. So just like that, Scizor completely stunts on the rival. It's here on the doorsteps of the Pokemon League. Like I said, I just think this Pokemon has chances. It's always going to be able to set something up. Maybe Fury Cutter's the move that has to go at some point. I'm honestly not sure, but hey, we've got the setups here, I think, to get some pretty easy victories. But with this one done, let's step down to Scyther and see how it does, since it has type weaknesses here that could actually be relevant. Maybe it struggles a lot more than its evolved form. There's only one way to find out. So here we are with Scyther. We're coming in with Wing Attack, Slash, Rock Smash, and Fury Cutter. I skipped Agility on this Pokemon because I was pretty sure we would be fine without it, but we once again have Slash coming up and we have Swords Dance coming up, which I think is going to make this Pokemon really tough. But we're going to have to just see how it goes before that, as it has to get through all these poison types, but as a bug type, so not just completely immune to all the poison type moves, and likely not one-hit KO everything here either, so this could be a little bit interesting. With that said, we do have Stab Wing Attack, which is a little bit stronger than what we were dealing with before, since we do have the badge boost from the very beginning of the game from Falkner. So that allows us to get a lot more one-hit KOs on these randos, and that might make this Pokemon a little bit better through this section. We'll just have to find out. It's also worth noting this Pokemon struggled a lot more against Jasmine in the previous section, so I'm pretty sure it's already dropped some rare candies, which is why we already have Slash on the moveset. So it could turn out that this Pokemon is better just because it has the extra levels, and then it ends up being like a punt on the late game because it doesn't have quite as much going for it as the Scizor does, especially not the ability to drop a bunch of rare candies. Still, the fact that we're already at level 41 here as we come to the Marlboro Man makes me think we're going to one-shot this entire team, but let's find out. So here against the first coughing, we go Wing Attack, and it's not quite a one-hit KO. It just barely misses the range. So we're going to be exposed to a little bit of damage here. Maybe Slash is the better way to go for the higher crit chance. Sludge does decent damage there. Weezing comes out, and we're going to have to 3-hit KO that Pokemon. Still, we're looking pretty good. We're surviving nicely. He's going for a lot of tackles against us. And here we get a level up and learn Swords Dance. I'm throwing this move on over the Rock Smash. Rock Smash is very weak. We don't really have a major need for it going forward, I don't think. So I think this is the way to go. For this one, though, we'll just stick with the Slash on the final coughing, getting the easy KO. And just like that, we've defeated the Marlboro Man with no real issues. And we're ready to move on to the basement and the rival. The big difference here is that we can put on a Bitterberry and then just set up Swords Dance and probably sweep the team. That's my game plan. Let's see if it actually works here against the rival. So Rival 4 attempt number 1 right here. I'm going straight for Swords Dance first. He goes Confuse Ray. That's perfectly fine. That's why we have the Bitterberry. Now we can go Wing Attack and destroy the Golbat. Out comes the Magnemite next. I'm going to go for Slash here. It is enough to one-shot that Pokemon. And now Quilava, we go Wing Attack and one-shot. The Haunter, we can stick with the Wing Attack and easily destroy it. And Sneasel, I'll just stick with Wing Attack, and that's another one-hit KO victory on that one. So the Rival is a complete joke because 1, we're at a higher level and we already have Swords Dance, but 2, we have the coverage moves. I mean, Wing Attack is a really good move at this point in the game on a physical attacker like this Scyther, since it was buffed so much in Gen 2 that now I think we just crush all these randos down here with this move. We basically can just hold auto A as we go through this section, and I think we'll do pretty well on the Mr. Wannabe Giovanni at the end, since Wing Attack is neutrally effective against all his Pokemon, unlike the Metal Claw with Scizor that was resisted by the fire types. Still, we'll just have to get there and see, but I think this is going to be pretty darn easy. And sure enough, with no issues, we make it to Mr. Wannabe Giovanni, so let's just see how he goes. He leads off with the Houndour. I'm just going Wing Attack and destroying that Pokemon. Out next comes the Coughing. We'll stick with the Wing Attack, again getting a one-hit KO. And Houndoom is too slow. We Wing Attack and one-shot. No need for any Swords Dances there. You easily get through on the basis that the move is not resisted and it's physical, going up against Houndoom's weaker defense stats. So you get through nice and easy there. And now it's just on to Clair, where I think the entire idea is Paralyze Cure Berry, set up with some Swords Dance at the beginning, and then just sweep with the Wing Attack. Let's see if it works or not. So here, at least with a critical hit, Wing Attack does one-shot the Dragonair just before Clair, but I think that was because of the critical hit. So I'm going to definitely throw on the Paralyzed Cure Berry here, and we're just going to see if we can manage to get this or not. But I think Swords Dance first is the correct play when we go against Clair. Who knows? I don't run damage calcs, so it might be that we don't actually need the Paralyzed Cure Berry and we could just sweep, but I'm going to go the safe route and just try to get the setup that I need. It will definitely help against the Kingdra later on, so let's just see how this actually goes. So Clair attempt number 1 right here. We're going for Swords Dance first. We get the Thunder Wave from the first Dragonair, which is perfectly fine. Now we can Wing Attack and destroy that Pokemon. Next Dragonair comes out. We Wing Attack again, one-hit KOing. Third Dragonair never stood a chance. Fortunately, the second and third Dragonairs had super effective moves against the flying type, but we still just take them down nice and easy. Now on Kingdra, I'm just going for the Wing Attack here and getting the one-hit KO. So it's definitely the correct play to do that. And now we get a level up and we could learn Double Team. Very interesting. I haven't really been using Slash. I'm going to replace Slash with Double Team because that could get us through a fight really, really easily. We'll just have to see. I've mentioned many times Double Team is a move that I only allow when it's learned via level up in this series. So there aren't that many Pokemon that get it. Scyther and Scizor are 2 of them that will get that move and could use it to YOLO, but I'm probably going to run Double Team on this Scyther, but not run it on the Scizor. That's my game plan right now. The logic here is that Scyther doesn't really need the speed boost from agility, so it might benefit more from being able to set up Double Team. I'm looking all the way ahead to somebody like Red's Pikachu, for example. We might have to go for Double Team there in order to survive against its Thunders so that we can set up some Swords Dance and actually get through that fight, whereas Scizor doesn't have that weakness to worry about, so we can probably go straight for agility and Swords Dance to try to get the victory there, especially since the Pikachu Pikachu does have a high likelihood of missing with the Thunder, and if it's not one-hit KOing against the Scizor, we'll have at least the chances to set up one Swords Dance and then maybe go in for the sweep. We'll just have to see how that actually works out at the end of the game, but this is kind of my logic going forward. I think that Scyther has a lot more weaknesses where Double Team could be useful going forward. Still, I'll avoid spamming the move as much as possible. I know why people don't like Double Team. I understand. I think that Red's Pikachu is like one of those prime cases where it will make sense to set up a little bit there though, and then hopefully just be able to outspeed and sweep the rest of the team naturally. I mean, this Scyther is insanely fast if you look at that speed stat down there and consider that we'll likely be at like level 65, 70. I mean, we've used some rare candies, so we're not probably going to get all the way to level 70 there, but still, we should have some reasonable chances to be faster than pretty much the whole team when we get to Red at the end of the game. But of course, with no issues, we make it to Rival 5, so let's just see how he goes here with our Scyther and if we can get the super easy victory. So first up on the Rival, we've got this Sneasel coming out. I'm going to set up some Swords Dances here so that we can basically just sweep through the team that's in front of us. And let's just teach him what Fury Cutter's actually supposed to look like. He sends out the Golbat next. We'll just go for the Wing Attack there. Magneton comes out. Wing Attack is resisted, but we still do massive damage. The Thunder Shock doesn't do that much to us. Typhlosion comes out and gets completely destroyed. We get to level 49 right here as Haunter comes out. We can just Wing Attack and destroy that Pokemon. Kadabra never stood a chance, and just like that, we get through the Rival on the first attempt. No issues whatsoever, and Scyther is ready to move on legitimately to the Pokemon League. We've got the typing that I think will be good enough to get through Willy Boy. I think we can set up and get through Koga, since a lot of his team is weak against flying. When we get to Bruto, I mean, it's really just about the Onix, but Onix is kind of a joke. I think we'll be able to get through it. Karen, it's just going to be a matter of getting her to not hit her trolley moves, which Double Team might help us. And then when we get to Lancey Boy, if he's going Rain Dance on us, we get the chance to set up, and I think we can sweep through the team. We'll just have to see how it actually goes, but I actually have a lot of confidence that this Scyther is going to get the job done. Let's test it and find out in the next sections. But for now, that does it for our legit bugs. Now we've got to get into our member pick bugs, and we're going to lead off with Scyther's original companion from Gen 1. Let's check in on our Pinsir. So here we are with our Pinsir, Sir Flail. It was being supported by channel member Johnny Plays 911. They decided, at least for now, not to re-up their subscription. So I'm still going to run this Pokemon through this section because I am kind of interested to see how it goes. But any of the channel members who don't currently have a Pokemon, if you're interested in picking up a Pinsir, let me know in the comments down below and I can assign it to you. Otherwise, we might just have to give up on Pinsir right at the doorsteps of the league. But we've already got Swords Dance and everything on this Pokemon, so I just really want to see how it goes through this part. Honestly, it might turn out to be completely busted when we actually get to the Pokemon League. We'll just have to test it and find out. Now we're running with Rock Smash right here, which isn't very good. I think I'm going to upgrade that immediately to something like Headbutt, just so that we have better damage against all these randos here. Seismic Toss also isn't particularly useful though, so I don't know, maybe I forget Seismic Toss since that doesn't really work with the Swords Dance strats and run the Headbutt there. Let's see how we actually do in this section. And sure enough, with no issues, we get to the Marlboro Man with our Pinsir. Let's see how this actually goes. I think we set up a Swords Dance and then just sweep with the Headbutt, but let's find out if that works. So here against the first coughing, I'm just going for a single Swords Dance. It goes for Smokescreen, which is kind of bad, but then we do one-shot that Pokemon. Out comes the next coughing. As long as we manage to hit, we're going to one-hit KO here. We get to level 34 on that one. We can one-shot the next coughing as well. Out comes Wheezing. This is a two-hitter. It goes for another Smokescreen, but we still take that Pokemon down. Fourth coughing comes out and gets one-shot, and now the fifth coughing never stood a chance against our Pinsir. We get through on the first attempt super easily, thanks to the Swords Dance Headbutt strats. Now, it's worth noting we are in the slow level up group here, which is why we're significantly under leveled compared to the other challengers so far. I don't actually think it's going to matter that much though. I think we once again go Bitterberry against the Rival and then just let our massive attack stat do the job for us as we set up with our Swords Dance and then just go in for the sweep on this team. The biggest issue is going to be the Haunter because we don't have just a simple neutral effective move against the Haunter there, and there aren't really a whole lot of moves to learn, so we might have to build up with the Fury Cutter. I'm honestly not sure. Now remember, this is a member pick Pokemon, that's why it's got Swords Dance already. Normally it doesn't get the move till level 43. Our next level up move is Submission, which also won't help us against Ghosts. Honestly, this Pokemon probably wants Hidden Power Ground really badly, but we're gonna run with what we've got right here. So rival attempt number 1, I'm going to set up with Swords Dance first. He goes for the Confuse Ray, of course. I misclicked and went for Fury Cutter instead of Headbutt to knock out this Golbat. But once we do use the Headbutt, we get the easy victory. Quilava comes out. We can just one-shot that Pokemon. That brings out the Magnemite. I'm going to go Rock Smash and actually get the KO on that one. Now, this is where this gets a little hard. Against the Haunter, our only choice is to go for Fury Cutter. Fortunately, it looks like we can survive. We knocked that one out, and Sneasel, we could stick with the Fury Cutter. We miss. Goes Feint Attack. We'll just switch into Headbutt and get the one-hitter there, though. Because we have the Swords Dance set up, it turns out to be perfectly fine to get through the rival. With that being done, we're going to get through the rest of these randos, and then we can move on to the end of this section. So sure enough, we make it to Wannabe Giovanni at the end of this section, and we've picked up Submission, which could be the solution to getting through his Houndour and Houndoom. Let's see how this goes. So first up against the Houndour, I'm just going to go Submission right here and get the easy one-hit KO. That brings out the Houndoom next. We hit Submission and destroy that Pokemon. And now we've got the Coughing in front of us. I'm just going to go Headbutt here. It's a two-hitter, but it really doesn't matter. We finished with 69 HP. I mean, come on, what more could you want? That was a perfect battle. Very nice. And now we're ready to move on to Clair, where I think this is another Swords Dance and Sweep situation. And then we should just be able to get through the rival at the end of this section. I don't know. We'll test it and see. We might want to build up these Swords Dance and then go for the Fury Cutter strats. I'm honestly not sure, but we'll test everything and just see what actually works when we get there. Now, I will take this brief moment to remind you guys that channel memberships are still open, and if you do want to save a Pokemon that hasn't made it to this point in the game, you're more than welcome to do it. Don't think that you're putting some sort of burden on me by giving me another Pokemon to run. I'm perfectly fine with that. I would love to see every single Pokemon get its best chance of actually getting through the entire game. There are some that deserve a little bit of review, honestly, because Kingfella the Wooper might actually deserve some more action with belly drum strats based on what we just saw with that Quagsire run. It is, of course, my goal someday to have somebody supporting each and every one of the Pokemon in the Pokedex. It goes a massive way to helping me and my family, but I also find it really fun to make these videos and be able to see exactly what it takes for every Pokemon to get through the game and hopefully get through Red at the end of the game. So just keep that in mind. It's an excellent way to support the channel as well as to just engage with the content that we're doing here. I think it's honestly one of the more fun channel membership perks in the Pokemon space, which is why I started doing it on this channel. RSE immediately ripped it off from me, and RBY has been debating resurrecting the Minimum Battles series for years because of how much fun it is to do the member pick Pokemon. So just take that for what you will. It's definitely something that I enjoy doing, and it supports the channel. And speaking of that, some people have asked if we will make a Patreon over here for GSC Pokemon challenges, and until now I haven't done that. RBY has a Patreon, RSE has a Patreon, but GSC does not currently, but I think that's about to change. I'm going to get that set up. The problem is Patreon won't let me upload a lot of videos until I actually have paid sponsors on Patreon, so I'm going to get it opened up with just a few of the early videos, and then we'll be getting everything caught up to present if people actually want to sign up there. So just let me know if that's something that you're interested in. There might be a link down below this video as I get the actual Patreon page set up, so just check that out when you get there. Anyway, without further ado, we have made it to Clair. I'm going to reset one time here just to make sure that I have the Paralyzed Cure Berry on, and I think this one's super simple. We just set up Swords Dance first and then hope to sweep through the team with the headbutts. Let's see if it works out. So Clair attempt number 1 right here. I came in with no headbutt PP. Oh no, we might be going for submission instead then. That's perfectly fine. Let's just see if this works. Submission one-shots the first Dragonair. Second Dragonair comes out. We hit submission and one-shot that one as well. Third Dragonair gets the submission and gets destroyed. That brings us to the Kingdra. I'm going to go for my last headbutt here. We get surfed and we get knocked out. So I think we just need to come in with more headbutt PP and then we'll get the victory. Let's try try this again. So here with proper headbutt PP, we can still one-shot against the Dragonairs from the looks of it after one Swords Dance, and that basically should give us the chances we need to get through the Kingdra at the end of this. We level up to level 41 once again. Headbutt here does over half. The Surf doesn't really matter. She can Hyper Potion all she wants. We're faster, and we're just going to take her down. So just like that, we managed to beat Clair in just a couple attempts. Once we actually get proper PP in our moves, she's really not that hard to take down. So here we're just going to tell these old guys about how we actually strategically set everything up so that we could get through Clair on the second attempt. And we're going to tell them that clearly Clair only wins when you go into battle without proper PP in your moves. And they're going to berate her, tell her to give us that badge, but they're also going to tell Lancey Boy that he might want to learn Spite with all of his Pokemon in order to have a way to prevent us from actually being able to hit him. Unfortunately, it's not going to get to Lancey Boy in time. I guarantee you he could cheat in the move. That's kind of his MO in the history of the Pokemon franchise, but he's instead going to be stuck facing up against this Pinsir. I think we get through everything in the league with this one. It's just going to be a matter of resets, not a matter of whether it's possible or not. And when I say a matter of resets, I mean within reasonable luck. I just don't see what's going to wall us. Like maybe we struggle a bit on Karen, but I just have to think that we're going to be able to get through everything else with the Swords Dance setup. Like what is actually going to stand in the way of this Pinsir? Maybe the slow level up group. That might honestly be its only true downfall. But even then, I think it will be enough to get through Lancey Boy at the end of this section. And then we'll be on to Kanto, and then we'll just have to see. All bets are off. But hey, that's why we run these Pokemon through the game. So I'd be really excited to hear if any of the current channel members who don't have a member pick would like to pick this Pokemon up, since it is a really fun one, or maybe Johnny Plays 911 comes back. We'll just have to see. But for now, we've made it to the final rival. Let's just get through this fight nice and easy. So here up against the Sneasel, I'm going to lead off with all of the Swords Dance because this Pokemon has nothing that's really threatening to me. And then let's just go for our own Fury Cutter and teach it that Fury Cutter is meant to be used by a bug type Pokemon. Golbat comes out next. Let's see what Fury Cutter does here even. Sure, it's 4 times resisted, but it's still doing decent enough damage. We probably should have just put on the Bitterberry and then we can get through this one. So let's try this again. So this time, once again, we will set up with all of the Fury Cutters first. Now I'm just gonna go Fury Cutter on the Golbat. We got a Screech, which is kind of bad. That allowed Wing Attack to do massive damage to us. So we're gonna have to avoid Screech from this Sneasel. This time it misses the Screech, so that's perfectly fine. That's what we wanted to see. And now once again, I'm going to try to just knock out this Golbat with the Fury Cutter. It confuses me again, but I do knock it out this time. That brings out Typhlosion. We hit ourselves in confusion, so I think we're losing. I'm just gonna reset there. We got Smokescreen, but I'm pretty sure we would have just gotten wrecked after that. Still, the Golbat doesn't know to just go for the Confuse Ray every turn, so I think this is still legit, or we could snap out of confusion and that would work for us too. This time it goes Wing Attack instead, so we do get a knockout the Golbat as we get to level 42. Let's see what we do against Typhlosion. We just one-shot with the Fury Cutter. Magneton comes out and also gets one-shot by Fury Cutter. This Haunter is the whole reason I've been setting up Fury Cutter to this point, and we do get the one-hit KO. And then against Kadabra, I'm just going Headbutt. It's the guaranteed hit, and I think that's the easiest way to get through there. So it takes a few attempts on the rival there, but really not too bad at the end of the day, and it's just because I'm going for Fury Cutter strats specifically for the Ghost Pokemon. But with that, I think we've got some legit chances going forward with Pinsir. So yet again, somebody pick it up so that Sir Flail has a chance to continue in this challenge. For now, we have gotten through to this point. It's time to check in on our next Pokemon. I think we're going to Shuckle. So here we are being supported by channel member Genwunner and his Shuckle AhShucks, coming in with Rollout, Withdraw, Rest, and Mud Slap as our move set. We have access to Sludge Bomb if we want a stronger move, but honestly with our stats we're probably better off just sticking with the Stab Rollout here. And Defense Curl becomes available once we actually manage to get through Clair, so we might need to go for that. As far as level up moves from here, we don't have anything left. We've already gotten Rest, so we're just gonna have to run with what we've got and hope that it's enough. I'm honestly not sure, but I think we're going to be trolling for quite a bit here. We're just going to have to see if we can find ways through the opponents that are in front of us efficiently, or if this takes a small eternity. I get the feeling that the move rollout was completely made for a Pokemon just like this Shuckle, though, that has no attack but can use this move to build up. Of course, we're so slow that we get flinched by everything, so we might want to just run with a Quick Claw as our standard item to try to get through some of these tougher opponents. Of course, our other weakness is anything that goes for status on us like poison, since we're not super strong and we can go down pretty easily to those sorts of status conditions. So we're just going to have to see how Shuckle goes through this section. So with no issues, we do make it to the Marlboro Man. Now we've just got to see if he goes for all the accuracy strats on us, or if we can actually set up properly with our rollout. We might want to spam a little bit with the mud slaps on the first coughing in order to make it a little bit easier to set up. Maybe that gives us the chances that we need, but I mean, our defenses are so good. The real threat is to get poisoned here, but let's just see how this actually goes. So Marlboro Man attempt number 1, he goes Sludge. It does like nothing. I'm going to give a couple of accuracy drops to this first Pokemon and now start setting up with the rollout here, just hoping that I can KO it. We get 3 hits to KO that Pokemon. The next coughing goes down in a single hit. We're on the last turn of rollout here as we knock out the next coughing, but we do get poisoned, which is kind of bad. Still, we've made it to Wheezing. I'm going all in on the rollout here, just hoping that we can build up enough to take this one down. It takes 4 hits to take out a Wheezing. The next coughing does go down, and now the final coughing comes out. We might need to rest here. I'm honestly not sure, but I'm just going for the rollout. We've got all the accuracy, so we're perfectly fine. We actually managed to get through that with no issues. And with that, we're ready to move on to the basement and see if we can get through the rival. I'm honestly not sure how he's going to go, but we're going to try to set up with rollout and get through the team that way. Curse is another move that could absolutely destroy us, so I think we're hoping for a Quick Claw on the Haunter in order to be able to roll out and knock it out before it can curse me. But let's just see how this actually works out. So here against the rival, I'm going to do a few things. I'm going to set up with the withdraws first, because I don't think Golbat can really do all that much to us other than confuse us. So it just makes sense to get all the defense. Then we can rest on this Pokemon just to get HP back, since it's not going to do much damage. It's going for Bite, but I think that's perfectly fine. Now we can go for the rollout and just hope to knock this Pokemon out efficiently. It takes 3 hits. Now Feraligatr comes out. It goes Water Gun. We go rollout. It's going to take 2 hits here to knock that Pokemon out. Still, we managed to get through to the Magnemite. This is another spot where I think we rest. It goes for the Thunder Wave on me. Now it's going Sonic Boom while I'm asleep. We're going to have to Mud Slap at this Pokemon to lower its accuracy, and then we're going to rest again to get HP back, hoping that it doesn't hit every single turn. When we wake up, we will now just go for the Mud Slap, and now I'm going to start setting up rollout on this Pokemon when it's on low health. That will bring out the Haunter. We hit rollout. It goes Curse. That's perfectly fine. And Sneasel comes out. It goes Faint Attack. We hit the rollout and we get the victory. The rest is massive here. Sleep Talk strats are also coming in. Keep in mind, we get that TM in this section, so I think we've got decent chances to get through from this point. It's nice to see that the rival wasn't very much of a wall there, and from here I think every fight just comes down to setting up rollout, hopefully not getting poisoned, and being able to get through the teams that way. And with no issues, we make it to Mr. Wannabe Giovanni. So let's see if let's just see if little Shuckle can completely roll out all over his team and destroy him, since he can't really do that much damage to us, I don't think. But let's find out. So first up on the Houndour, I'm just going to go for rollout. This looks like a simple 2-hit KO. It bites me, which is good strategy, but we still managed to get through. The coughing goes Smoke Screen, but we still hit and knock that one out, getting to level 45. Now the Houndoom hits Ember, but we hit the rollout. So he tried to cheese, he tried to flinch us, he tried to lower our accuracy. Doesn't matter. Shuckle is the one. He can just go through that and say, ah, shucks, I'm far too powerful for that, and just move on in the game. Honestly, the only problem of this Pokemon at this point, I think, is just that it's really slow. I get the feeling it's going to completely crush Claire as long as we give a Paralyzed Cure Berry, because honestly, that's her only real strategy against this one. And even if she is paralyzing us, we can just sit here and spam rest and eventually be able to get through. I don't think she's really going to want to use her normal type moves against us, so it's really just just the surfs that we have to worry about. And as long as we can build up enough before we get hit by surf, I think we get the victory. But let's find out if that's actually the case, and maybe our massive special defense is enough to survive surf even when it's super effective against us. Our real issue here, of course, as we get into Clair's gym, is the fact that these dragons like to use Dragon Rage. Not on Clair herself, of course, it's all the dragons that come before her, so we do have to get the right setups where we can actually knock these Pokemon out. It's going to require some quick claw luck because we're so slow. This could honestly turn out to be the real wall of this entire section. The fact that these Dratinis are spamming Dragon Rage on our poor little Shuckle. So I think we have to go in with a Paralyzed Cure Berry and hope that one of the Dratinis gets really stuck on trying to paralyze me as the way to actually get through this, because if they just go Dragon Rage every turn, we get wrecked. In theory, some Mud Slap strats can come in here too, just trying to lower accuracy and maybe get some Dragon Rage misses, but we're going to need a lot of luck for that on this first Dratini in that case. It should happen eventually where we actually can get this Pokemon to miss with its moves, but so far we haven't had any luck. Here, once we get it to actually miss a bunch of times, I will go for the rest as well to get HP back and then knock that Pokemon out. That brings us to the next Dratini, but we can one-shot and we survive another Dragon Rage and can get through the last of the Dratinis. That is actually the hardest fight that I think we've had with this Pokemon so far in this series. That was brutal. Still, we're just gonna have to see how we do against everything else here. Hopefully we can manage to just build up the rollouts enough to get the victories, though technically these Seadras that like to lower accuracy are pretty tough here as well. So honestly, I don't know. Maybe we've just run into a wall for little Shuckle. Still, we managed to get through that one eventually, and I think the Paralyzed Cure Berries will get us through, but we're gonna have to go for a lot of Paralyzed Cure Berry in order to get the action that we need in order to actually win here against these tough opponents. This might be the one case where Clair is actually worse than the randos in her gym because she doesn't know the move Dragon Rage. Still, we can also see that Water Gun is doing a lot of damage from the Pokemon before Clair, so it really does make me a bit nervous. We're gonna have to go with the Paralyzed Cure Berry the whole time here, I think, and accuracy strats could come in to get our setups off. We'll just have to see. Still, we do manage to make it to Clair, so let's just see how this goes. I'm going in with the Paralyzed Cure Berry first. It might be a situation where we actually need the Quick Claw to get through. I'm honestly not sure, but let's test this and find out. So Clair attempt number 1, I'm going to lead off with Mud Slap on the first Dragonair. We want this Pokemon to miss us. We fortunately don't take that much damage from the Surf, so I'm going to take advantage of that by just setting up a bunch of withdrawals here as well, just in case anything tries to go for anything physical against me. I highly doubt they will, but now we can rest to get back HP, and then after we finish our rest, we'll go into our rollout spam here, and let's just see if we can manage the victory. Here, it looks like it's a 3-hitter on the first Dragonair with a crit. Out comes Kingdra with the Surf, doing massive damage, but we get a critical hit to one-shot that Pokemon. Next Dragonair comes out and goes Dragon Breath. We recover with the Paralyzed Cure Berry when it paralyzes me. We've made it to the final Dragonair. I'm going to rest right here because I don't think Dragon Breath is going to do enough to knock me out. And it's not like the Ice Beam or Slam or anything that we really need to worry too much about as well. So once we manage to wake up, we're just going to go back for the rollout, hope to build it up enough to knock this Pokemon out. Is probably a 3 or 4 hit KO. Turns out to be a 4-hitter, but we get the victory against Clair on the very first attempt. She's going to call hacks because we healed multiple times in battle there, and we're somehow able to get through by just rolling out with this Pokemon that only has like 45 attack. Kind of ridiculous if we're being honest, but hey, we'll take it. And I accidentally failed to save before the next trainer that actually knocked me out with Dragon Rage, so I had to go back through Clair again. I just froze her Pokemon to get through nice and easy. But what I can tell you that I learned is that the Kingdra is a 2-hit KO with the rollout at that point. So the fact that we managed to get the critical hit probably saved us. So I guess I understand Clair calling hacks at this point, but hey, we'll still just take it and move on. But yet again, this next Dragonair is the actual boss for this poor little Shuckle because we can't avoid all of these Dragon Rages. We're gonna have to rest here after using a few accuracy drops on this Pokemon. We're just just hoping that we can basically use up its Dragon Rage PP, which we do. And once we manage that, we're able to get through and get the victory. Still, fixed damage moves are definitely a problem for this Pokemon. Somebody like Koga using Toxic could actually turn out to be an issue for us in this one as well. So we're just going to have to see how we actually do as we progress, because honestly, there isn't much better for this Pokemon than to go for the rollout strats. However, I will be throwing on Defense Curl with this over the top of Withdraw, since they're functionally the same, except Defense Curl allows us to power up our rollouts. And there could be cases where we need that extra power on the 4th and 5th turn of rollout in order to knock out opponents. So I do think that it's an incredibly important piece of our strategy as we go forward with this one. We're just going to have to see if it actually works. For now, though, we're ready to go take on rival number 5. We've got to get through him to get to the steps of the league. I think we've got decent chances here. He's going to lead off with that Sneasel that really shouldn't do too much to us. And like I said, I'm going to be going Defense Curl rollout here in order to get through that fight. I think that is the best way to go as we progress. Now, Shuckle does also learn Earthquake, so we will pick up that TM just to have it, just in case we ever want it for anything. It could be good against the Magneton here, but I think we're better off just sticking with the rollout strats. Let's see how this actually goes. So Rival 5 attempt number 1, I didn't throw on Defense Curl, just a second. With that fixed, we now have Defense Curl on properly. I'm going straight for the Defense Curls against this first Sneasel, and then we will start in with our rollouts. It's going to be a 2-hit KO on that Pokemon. Out comes the Flaileon next. It goes Water Gun, which means basically nothing, and we're once again going to 2-hit KO that Pokemon. That brings out the Magneton. It goes for the Sonic Boom, but we one-shot there. So now we've got the Haunter out. I think we have to rest here, unfortunately, in order to get HP back. We might not be able to survive. At this point, we get confused. Shadow Ball's doing some damage, and yeah, we get wrecked right there. I didn't go in on full health, so that affected things a little bit. And honestly, we don't really need the Paralyzed Cure Berry. This is a Quick Claw situation, I think, all the way. So let's just see how this actually goes for us. So here we can once again knock out the Sneasel, back to Flaileon. We're once again 2-hit KOing that Pokemon. Magneton can't do anything, it gets completely wrecked. But this time we're to the Haunter with better HP. We hit the rollout, it goes Shadow Ball, then Curse, but we knock it out after that. That brings out the Kadabra, it just goes Future Sight, and we destroy it. And finally, we've got the Golbat, it goes Bite, we hit rollout, and we win. So it turns out that Shuckle, if you just give it access to rollout back on Falkner, is good enough to get all the way to at least the Pokemon League. Now we have to see if it stands up to this section of the game, but honestly, if it gets to Lancey Boy, I think we can set everything up that we need to on the first Gyarados, rest to get HP back, and then just sweep through the team. I don't think Surf is going to do enough even with the Rain Dance, and we're going to have super effective stab rollout building up, which should be enough to get through all the flying types. We'll just have to see how that actually goes when we get there. But for now, Shuckle is moving on. Let me give a massive thank you to Genwunner, already supporting here for 22 months for this Shuckle. I think I assigned Shuckle to Genwunner back in the day, but I do love the fact that I get the chance to shout you out for supporting me for so long, dude. It's really amazing. Thank you. And you're moving on. You've got at least a little skin in the game with AhShucks, hopefully crushing the entire league. But let's find out how it goes in that next section. For now, though, that does it for Shuckle. Let's move on to our Forretress, which we actually have 2 Forretress supporters, so we're going to have to do 2 separate runs with this Pokemon. Now, as mentioned, we have 2 different Forretresses to run because 2 different channel members are supporting it. First off, we've got Flashliger coming in with his Roly-Poly. And this one is coming in with the moveset of Earthquake, Protect, Toxic, and Aeroblast. Aeroblast is standing in for like a hidden power flying, but you know, just take that for what you will. It's a super strong move. But I also think that Earthquake is going to do a lot for us here. We're just going to have to see how this one goes. I find it funny that Roly-Poly does not have like rollout here as the move set. It really is too bad that we don't get that move, but hey, we'll simply move with what we've got right now. I think we've got the moves with Earthquake and with the Aeroblast to get through everything that's in front of us, and we don't really have any level up moves. Like our next level up move is Explosion, which really doesn't matter. I don't think spikes are worth anything in this sort of challenge, honestly, but we'll just see how it actually goes. For now, though, we're just going to knock out everything as quickly as we can and then make our way to the top of the tower where we can fight against the Marlboro Man. And with no issues, we make it to the Marlboro Man at the end of this section, so let's just see how he actually goes. First off, against the Coughing, we just go for Earthquake and one-shot that Pokemon. Earthquake is kind of OP here, even without Stab. We one-shot the second Coughing. The third Coughing is also going to get completely wrecked. Now it's time for Wheezing. Let's see what kind of damage we do. It turns out to be a 2-hit KO. I'm going to Aeroblast here just to finish that one off. That gets us to level 37 as we get to the fifth Coughing. And finally, the sixth Pokemon comes out and we completely destroy it, getting a super easy victory there. Flashliger never had to worry about anything from the Marlboro man. He's a complete joke. And now we're ready to move on in this challenge. Let's just see how we do as we get to the rival in the basement. I think we've got all the moves that we need. We've got Protect with Toxic strats as well if we need it, but I think Earthquake answers most of our major problems. So let's just see how this actually works out. So first up, we've got the Golbat in front of us. We have to go Aeroblast on this Pokemon. That's our only move that can actually damage it. We get a nice crit. Quilava comes out next. It hits the Flame Wheel for massive damage. I managed to hit the Earthquake to knock that one out though. Magnemite comes out and gets immediately destroyed. That will bring out the Haunter. We can just stick with the Earthquake here to destroy that Pokemon. And finally, Sneasel comes out. It goes Feint Attack. We survive. Earthquake one-shots at least with a crit. So we managed to get through on the first attempt, and we're ready to move on in this challenge. After that, I think as long as we recover PP, we're not going to have any real issues with the remaining Pokemon down here. So let's just make our way straight to Mr. Wannabe Giovanni at the end of this section. And sure enough, we make it to Mr. Wannabe Giovanni with no issues. I think Earthquake destroys him, but let's see how it goes. So first up, against the Houndour, we're just going to go for Earthquake and easily one-shot that Pokemon. Out comes the Houndoom next. It goes Ember, which did a lot of damage, but we managed to one-shot yet again with the Earthquake, and the Coughing never stood a chance. Roly-Poly completely destroys that team, and we're ready to move on in this one. But with that done, we're now ready to make our way off towards Clair, and I think that we're going to be able to get through this just fine with the Earthquake and the Aeroblast strats, but we can always go for Protect with Toxic if we really need to, especially when we get to the Kingdra at the end. But I think this is mostly going to come down to maybe just going in with a Paralyzed Cure Berry just in case, and otherwise hoping that we can just get the setup to simply sweep through the team. Our moves are kind of strong at this point. We have a really good attack stat, relatively speaking, so if anything's really lacking, it's our speed, but I think we're still fast enough to outspeed against the Dragonairs. So as long as we one-hit KO those, we should be perfectly fine to go, but we'll just have to see how it actually works out with this one. Now, with that being said, we're not one-hit KOing on the Dragonair just before Clair, and that makes me think that we might need a little bit of luck here. So the Paralyzed Cure Berry is definitely going on, but we might need the luck to actually be able to get some crits or something to sweep through this team. I mean, we don't really have any stronger moves available to us, so we're just going to have to go with the Earthquake and hope that it's enough. There could be a rest strat here even, but I'm going to go with what I've got first. Let's just see if we can get this to go. So first things first, on the first Dragonair, I'm going to try to Aeroblast just to see what it does. It does not get the one-hitter. Still, we can knock this Pokemon out after that, so that goes down just fine. Next Dragonair, we're going to stick with the Earthquake here. We get Thunderbolt. That's perfectly fine by me because we can survive. The third Dragonair comes out. We still haven't gotten paralyzed because it misses the Thunder Wave. Oh, yes. Just like that, we make it to the Kingdra. Let's go for the Earthquake after it hits me with a Surf. We do over half with a crit, and it doesn't knock me out with the Surf, so we get another crit to knock it out. Oh, Claire, she kind of deserved that, but she's definitely calling hacks there from the double crits of our Roly-Poly, but it's really her own darn fault because she didn't go for the damage dealing moves with her earlier Pokemon. She keeps trying to spam away with the Thunder Wave. We know that doesn't work. Come on. Obviously, she needs to learn that you just go for damage dealing moves. Play like a 10-year-old on the playground. That is the best way to actually stop the player. Unless you've got the really trolly strats, the Parafusion or something like that, just going for the Thunder Wave is never enough to actually get the victory. We all know that. And with that, we're going to have to go explain to these old guys that they need to give a little bit of strategy training to Claire, because just going for paralysis strats kind of makes her like the trash man from Gen 1. Anyway, with that, we'll just answer their questions, and then we're going to be ready to go on to Rival 5, which might be one of the harder battles in the game for this Pokemon, given the fact that we have the 4x weakness to fire, and he does have the Typhlosion. I think we'll be able to get through everything with Earthquake strats, at least, though. We might have to go for a little bit of Quick Claw action in order to get this one to work. So here, I'm going to go in with the Quick Claw on this first attempt against Rival 5. Let's see how it actually works out. Here first, he has the Sneasel, of course. I'm just going to go Earthquake on this Pokemon. It goes Screech, lowering my defense, but we still take that one down. Typhlosion goes for Flame Wheel and does massive damage, but we do get the one shot after that. Golbat might be a problem here, though. It wing attacks and knocks me out. We're going to need the Quick Claw on that Typhlosion, I think, to get through. Screech is also putting in a lot of work here, so we might be in bad shape. We're just going to have to see. This time, we do get the Quick Claw on Typhlosion, though. So we one-shot that Pokemon, we make it to the Golbat, we don't have Screech on this time, and Aeroblast is just going to 2-hit KO this Pokemon. So we easily get through that one. Magneton comes out next. We can just go Earthquake to destroy it. That will bring out the Haunter. We're going to go for the same. We don't even care about the Curse at this point. And finally, we get the Kadabra out. We can just go Earthquake as it goes Future Sight and get the very easy victory. So it's all or nothing, really. We just need the Quick Claw activation in one spot to get through that Typhlosion. And otherwise we're good to go. Based on my previous experience with the Steel types only run that we did on the channel, I think this Pokemon's going to struggle really hard when we get to Claren's Houndoom. It's only the Quick Claw that's going to make that maybe possible. We're going to be sitting there resetting for quite a while, I think, in order to hit the Earthquake and knock that Pokemon out. Still, Flashliger, you've made it to the Pokemon League. You're standing on the steps. You're ready to go in. I think we've got everything we need in order to actually get a victory here against Willy Boy. I think Koga's going to be fine. Bruno shouldn't be too bad because at best he's only got neutral damage. So it really is Karen and Lance where we're going to have to worry. We might need some moveset changes for Lance in particular because Earthquake can't hit him. We're just going to have to see. I mean, at that point, we could start running with some sort of max power return in order to actually deal enough damage. And even then, it might not be great against some of those dragons. We're just going to have to find out. But for now, we make it through to this point and you are moving on. So let me just give you a massive thank you. Already supporting for 13 months here with this Forretress as a Johto champion. You're an absolute legend. I cannot thank you enough. But with that, we've got one more Forretress to run. So let's get into this and see how our second version of Forretress goes. So here we are now with cheeseboywanna's BabyBel, the Forretress that is running Rollout, Curse, Rock Smash, and Giga Drain. Rollout strats could be very interesting here, and the fact that we've got Curse to set up with could make us super defensive and bulky. So I'm just really interested to see how this one goes. Rock Smash likely falls off of our moveset pretty quick because we don't really need it, I don't think, in this section. Giga Drain is there as just a way for us to recover HP, but yet again, might not be super useful at this point. We'll just have to see how that actually goes. I get the feeling that the rollout strats, though, are going to be super OP as we go through this section, assuming that we can actually hit it. And sure enough, with no issues, we managed to make it to the top of the tower and the Marlboro Man. So let's just see how he actually goes here. I think we set up some Curse and then maybe we just sweep through the team with the rollout, but let's find out. So first things first here, I'm just going to curse like crazy at the Marlboro Man because while yes, he can lower my accuracy, he can't really do much else against this Pokemon. And once we get all of the attack and defense buffs, I don't think he can actually knock this Pokemon out. Here now we can go for the rollout and just 2-hit KO that first Coughing. Next Coughing comes out. We missed the rollout, but I think that's perfectly fine. Rollout has 20 PP. So while he's trying to spam away with the smoke screens, if we just manage the hits, we're just 1-hit KOing things as we build up now. He's realized his only strategy is to go for the smoke screen, so we're just gonna kind of speed through this. He tries to self-destruct with one of the Coughings. Oh, good job. And just like that, we get the super easy victory because he just can't do any real damage to us. And just like that, we're ready to move on in this one. Now, the big issue is that we probably can't go for all the curses in this next fight because of the Quilava. What I'm gonna try to do, though, is go in with a Quick Claw. maybe we can then use that to set up all the curses and then just sweep through the entire team, since that first Golbat isn't really going to be that scary. But let's see how this actually works out. So first things first, I'm going to curse at the Golbat. It confused me, but if I just manage to set up the curses, I'm pretty sure we won't take too much damage. Now I think it's just about Quick Claw activations on this Quilava in particular, because the Flame Wheel completely destroys me, so we're going to have to try this one again. Here it takes 9 attempts to finally get the Quick Claw activation on the Quilava, so that we can simply knock it out in a single hit. Out comes the Magnemite. It gets completely destroyed. We get to level 38 right here as Haunter comes out. It goes Shadow Ball and gets wrecked. And that brings out the final Sneasel. We missed the rollout here, but we just hit the next one and knock it out. He couldn't do any damage to a Forretress with the Sneasel, so we get the very easy victory when we get there. And with that, we should be good to get through the rest of these randos without too much issue. So let's just see how they go. And sure enough, with no real issues, we managed to make it to Mr. Wannabe Giovanni here. So let's just see if BabyBel just rolls out all over these Pokemon. First up on the Houndour, I'm just going straight for rollout. We get the one-hitter with a crit. That brings out Houndoom next. It goes for the Ember. We hit the rollout, though, and destroy it. And finally, we roll out on the Coughing. It was never in question. We easily win that fight. And with that, we're ready to move on in the game. The real question when we get to Claire's gym is going to be if we actually need to set up any curses or if we can just go for the rollout strats and get the victory. That's what I'm very interested to find out as we go through this one. So we're just going to have to test it and see, but I think there's a reasonable likelihood that we just throw on the Paralyzed Cure Berry, go for rollout, and get the pretty easy victory once it builds up. The fact that she loves to go for the Thunder Wave could really make this one quite easy if we get the right ranges. There is also the possibility of forgetting Rock Smash here to add on something like Headbutt, maybe to get a flinch or two in order to help us build out that range more effectively, because there are cases where you'd rather have the first Dragonair on lower HP, take fewer turns to knock it out with the rollout, but then be able to sweep through the next 3 Pokemon with the setup. So we'll just have to test that and see how it actually goes. We're only just barely faster than the Dragonairs in the gym, which is the key factor here. We're going to have to actually be able to set everything up. If we do go for Curse, we're going to be slower and have to rely on Quick Claw luck at that point. So we'll just have to see how this actually works out. However, for the Dratinis that are in here, I'm actually going to add on the move Headbutt over the top of Rock Smash, because honestly, there's not a lot of cases where we need Rock Smash, I don't think. Headbutt will allow us to get through those randos, I think, a lot easier. Or at least so I thought, but it turns out that Headbutt isn't quite one-hit KOing on these Dratinis, so we actually need some luck here now to get through. We do manage to level up and get the KO on the next Dratini, but it does appear to be a range, and then we're fully paralyzed. So I think we might even have to go Pink Bow here in order to guarantee that Headbutt is enough, or we could upgrade to Strength to try to get through these. It looks like the Pink Bow is doing the job though, so I'm just going to stick with that for now. It at least gives us the chance to get flinches, which could really help as we go through this one. Now, of course, that's going to be a 2-hit KO when we get to the Dragonair, so we're really going to have to see how this goes. I'm putting on the Paralyzed Cure Berry as my main strategy for Claire, because I don't think there's any move that's going to get us one-hit KOs on these random Dragonairs here, but we may be able to Headbutt flinch once and then start setting up the rollout. Maybe that works. Let's test it and find out. So Claire attempt number 1, I'm going to try to go for the Headbutt first, hoping for a flinch. Instead, we get the Thunder Wave. That's perfectly fine. I'm just going to knock that Pokemon out in 2 hits. Next Dragonair comes out. I'm going to stick with the Headbutt. We get the flinch right there. So maybe we just go all in trying to knock these Pokemon out with the Headbutts. We get another flinch on the next Dragonair. So that brings us to the Kingdra, where it goes Surf. It does less than half here. We got crit last time when we were here, and then we just missed 2 rollouts in a row, so we lose. We might have been able to get through with the rollout if it had gotten the chance to build up. So next attempt, we're once again to the Kingdra with no status. It goes Surf. We hit the rollout. Rollout does laughably little here. Oh no. So we would need to build this move up before the Kingdra to have a chance. We're just going to have to try this one again. So this time on the first Dragonair, we get a Thunder Wave miss and a flinch. That brings out the second Dragonair where we miss the rollout. Are you kidding me? We're going to need some luck here because I think we have to build this move up. It goes for Thunderbolt against me, which is kind of nice. So we're on to the next Dragonair. It does manage to paralyze me, but I knock it out with Rollout. We've made it to the Kingdra. It hits Surf, I hit Rollout, and I get the one-hit KO. So that one really is about getting to the Kingdra with the Rollout fully built up. Once you get that, you can get the victory. Even when you're paralyzed, it's just a matter of actually moving, which is, you know, a 1 in 4 chance that you don't actually move, which, you know, you're 75% to move on any given turn. It's only a 1 in 4 chance that you don't move due to the paralysis. So it works out perfectly fine in the end. With that, we can go down here, just tell these old guys about how great cheeseboywanna is with the rollout strats. They really do need to kind of educate Claire on what all of the TMs were from the gyms before her, because it's turning out that a lot of the gyms before her are giving moves that allow you to get through her. Like, consider Mudslap strats have come in. We've used Fury Cutter strats to beat her. We haven't gone to track strats, but that's just because I find it cheesy. I find it basically a proxy for Double Team, so I simply don't go for that. Shadow Ball hasn't really come in, but we have used Dynamic Punch. Iron Tail, I think, is used just a couple times just for damage on the Dragonairs. Icy Wind, however, has come in as a strategy. Plus, there are things sold in Goldenrod that she totally should have been prepared for, and yet she just completely punts in all of these fights. Like, what is Claire doing as the 8th gym leader here? Not even understanding all of the TMs that you can have at this point in the game. I get the feeling that she just hasn't studied Johto enough to really understand what's going on here. Still, with all that done, we've gotten through 8 gyms. We're ready to go to the final rival battle before the league. And honestly, if anything, we might have to go Defense Curl rollout here. We'll keep Curse on the moveset, but we might forget, say, Headbutt in order to set that up. Or we could forget Giga Drain, since Giga Drain doesn't really work with the rest of our stats very well. Maybe that's the strategy that gets us through. We'll just have to see. But for now, let's try the rival and see if we can get the win. So here we are, Rival 5 attempt number 1. I'm just going to go straight for the rollout on the Sneasel. It's going to be a 2-hitter here, but we get to build it up enough that if we can just manage to outspeed the Typhlosion for a turn, I think we one-shot it. It hits the Flame Wheel, taking me to very low health, but I do knock that Pokemon out. Golbat comes out though and wing attacks me. So this is going to be a Quick Claw spot the whole way. I need to make sure that I actually have that item on, and then we can just see if we manage to get the Quick Claw activation on Typhlosion. I think we win. Let's find out. This time we don't get it, but we do manage to survive against Golbat with 2 HP and knock that Pokemon out. That brings out the Magneton. It gets completely destroyed. Haunter comes out. It goes Shadow Ball and ends me from 2 HP. It kind of makes sense. We're going to need better luck than that to get through. This time we get the Quick Claw on Typhlosion though, so we get through that Pokemon just fine. We also get a Quick Claw here on the Golbat, so we knock it out in a single hit. Magneton comes out and once again gets destroyed. That brings out the Haunter. It goes Confuse Ray against me. It knows that it really needs to cheese here if it's going to get the victory. We do manage to ultimately knock it out and get to Kadabra, which goes Future Sight, and that allows me to get the victory even though I only had 7 HP. So in the end, we do manage to get through the rival. We're on the steps of the Pokemon League, and that is 2 completely separate Forretresses with completely different strategies getting the job done. BabyBel is through. So with that, I just want to give a massive thank you to cheeseboywanna, already supporting for 17 months here with the BabyBel, and we managed to get through this section just fine. I think you're going to go pretty far, cheeseboywanna, and I'm going to give this fortress every possible advantage as we go through this one, because I really do want to see you get not just through the league, let's get all the way through red at the end of the game with this one. Curse strats may just be enough to work out. We're just going to have to test it and see. But with that done, we've got one more member pick of these bug types. We've got to do Heracross for Redeemed Steve. UrDoneSon. Let's see how this one goes. So here with UrDoneSon, we are coming in with Fury Cutter, Counter, Flail, and Rock Smash as our moveset. We will learn Takedown in this section and possibly Reversal as new moves to help us through. I don't think we get to Mega Horn just yet. We're going to have to see how that move does later on in the challenge. I think there's a decent chance that we throw on a move like Headbutt in order to get through. Earthquake will be coming in later as well. So there are some opportunities to get some stronger moves, but I honestly think it's the Rock Smash that likely comes off and gets replaced in this section with something like Headbutt, but I'm going to try to run this moveset as it is right now just to see if we can actually get the victory. And sure enough, it just looks like the Rock Smash doesn't quite do enough for us here, so I am going to go for a stronger move. Headbutt is just the logical play because of the fact that it allows us to also get the flinches, and it's a repeatable TM, so we can always replace it with something else later on if we want to. That being said, we might be better off forgetting Flail just because I'm not sure it's actually that useful at this point in the game. Like, yes, if we get on low HP, it could be really strong, but at that point, maybe we're better off with like counter strats or building up Fury Cutter. I'm honestly not sure, but this is the way I'm going to go just to make this section a little less tedious. Flail, of course, has already done its job by getting us through Faulkner at the beginning of the game, so I think it's basically good enough to just get rid of that move at this point. With that being said, though, I was keeping Rock Smash for Pokemon like these Magnemites, and it doesn't seem to be doing enough damage, so we might actually be better off with Flail to have that YOLO strat when we do get to low health. So I might go back and replace Rock Smash with Flail, still keeping Headbutt on the moveset, but as a possible better strategy here. So that's what I'm going to replace at this point, because honestly, the Rock Smash just doesn't seem to be doing enough. Now, of course, if we ever need to, we can YOLO into a move like Dynamic Punch, giving us one of our strongest possible moves. I just don't think it's going to help us enough against all these poison types, which is why I'm putting it off for now. And sure enough, with no issues, we managed to get to the Marlboro Man. Let's just see if we can beat him nice and easy with this Heracross. First up on the Coughing, I'm going for Headbutt here, and it's going to be a 2-hit KO, but we do manage to knock it out nice and easy. Second Coughing comes out, we flinch it and knock it out pretty easily as well as we get to level 34. Third Coughing comes out, it hits Sludge. We can simply knock it out from there. Now we've got the Wheezing in front of us. This looks to be a 3-hit KO. I came in without full HP and it exploded and knocked me out, so we're going to have to try this one again. Let's make sure that we get full PP and HP on our Pokemon before this fight, and hopefully we can flinch against that Wheezing this time. This time we're getting fairly low on HP. Maybe Flail is stronger here. We still get the explosion and get knocked out though, so we're gonna have to try this again. At this point though, I honestly think that it's just gonna come down to getting a flinch on this Wheezing. We get it this time, so we knock that Pokemon out. We still have green health going to the 5th Pokemon, and the remaining Coughing does nothing to us, so we easily win once we actually get the flinch on the Wheezing. It still is kind of sad to see that we need a flinch there, but honestly, I think it's perfectly reasonable to reset for that. It's like a 30% chance to get the flinch, and that's all we really need in that situation. Now, however, we need to go to the basement, and we have to take on the Rival, where his Golbat is actually legit scary. We are 4 times weak to the flying type, so if we get hit by Wing Attack, we're probably getting wrecked. I think this is one of those spots where we likely need to get a flinch to get through that Pokemon. I don't think we have any moves that are going to one-shot there. We could go for counter, but I think we'll have too little HP, but I'm going to give myself a Gold Berry here just for the extra chance to heal. Maybe that helps. Let's find out. So here we are, Rival for attempt number 1. I didn't even come in with full PP, which is kind of bad. Here we can see that this is going to be a 2-hit KO on the first Golbat with the Headbutt, but we do take it down. We get to level 35. We can learn Takedown here. I guess I'll learn that over Headbutt since I have no Headbutt PP left, but it's not enough to one-shot against this Quilava. Still, it goes for Smokescreen against me, and now I can Flail on low health. Our real problem is going to be the Haunter here, though. We do not have a move for this Pokemon specifically. Like, I don't think we can counter anything, so we simply get wrecked. Obviously, Earthquake will solve that Pokemon later on, but right now, we might have to go for something like Hidden Power or Thief just to try to get through that particular Pokemon, or we have to try to build up with the Fury Cutter, which is only really possible if we get there on high health. So I think we're going to have to go back into this trying to use Headbutt to get flinches to actually have enough HP to maybe take that Pokemon down. Let's see how this goes. So this time we get the flinches we need on the Golbat as we level up here. I'm actually going to skip Takedown this time. Let's go for the Headbutt on the Quilava. It hits the Flame Wheel, but we do survive. So we're above half health at least as we go to the Haunter. Obviously, we're going to do next to nothing with the Fury Cutter here. We're just hoping that the Gold Berry is enough. We get hit by Shadow Ball, but we do knock that Pokemon out. We've made it to Sneasel. It quick attacks, we survive, and we knock it out with the Fury Cutter. And that brings us to the final Magnemite, where we do one-shot there with the Fury Cutter as well. So it turns out that the Headbutt Flinch strats plus Fury Cutter are enough to get the job done there. I think when we go to the final rival, we're gonna have to build up again, but at that point I guess we just forget one of our moves in order to learn Earthquake, and that's our actual solution for that Pokemon. Earthquake's gonna be good against the Typhlosion as well, so it just makes way too much sense to learn that move at the end of this. For now though, let's move on with our moveset as it is and just see how we do for the rest of this section. Honestly, this is another Pokemon that I think is just being held back a little bit by the slow level up group and not being able to get quite as many levels as you'd like in order to damage opponents. But at the end of the day, I do think it's going to find a way through this section, especially with the headbutt strats, giving it some flinches. It should ultimately work out, but we'll just have to see as we go. And without too many issues, we make it to Mr. Wannabe Giovanni. He clearly recognizes that Redeemed Steve is quite the trainer here, and I think we're going to stunt on him, but let's see how this goes. So first things first, against the Houndour, I just go for Headbutt and one-shot that Pokemon. Coughing comes out next. We can Headbutt and flinch it and then just knock it out the next turn. Now Houndoom, we Headbutt, it hits Ember, and then we just Headbutt it again and easily win. So he never stood a chance. He clearly knew it. He was like sitting here scared with his Houndour and Houndoom in spite of the fact that he has super effective moves against us, because he knew that he just couldn't deal enough damage to actually have any chance in that fight. Still, with that done, it's now time to make our way over to Claire's gym, where I'm not sure what strategy is actually going to be best. It could be that our best strategy is to reach the point of having a really powered up Flail and then just like YOLOing our way through the fight, or it could be that we just want to go for headbutt flinch strats. I'm honestly not sure. We're just going to test everything and see here. Now, of course, I had to run into an optional trainer there, so I reset. I'm back to the radio tower, but honestly, this is like the worst part of doing these. I'm usually so good at knowing my routing, but every now and then when I'm talking, I'll like misroute and then have to redo a section. It's not really that much time lost, just annoying. Still, I think our best strategy against Claire is likely to be to go in with the Paralyzed Cure Berry, fish for some flinches against the Dragonairs, but we're already faster than the Kingdra as well, so we can flinch that Pokemon, possibly getting a victory that way. We'll just have to see what actually works out in the gym. Once again, we do find that it's not a one-hit KO on the Dragonair just before Claire with the headbutt, so I do think that we need to go for the Paralyzed Cure Berry here, but honestly, if we ever really need a YOLO, we could just go Max Friendship Return. That's probably the simplest way to get the victory, but I think this will go within a reasonable number of attempts with the Paralyzed Cure Berry on, so let's just see how it goes here for Redeemed Steve. So first Dragonair, we can go headbutt right here. We do over half. We get paralyzed by Thunder Wave, but we can recover and knock that Pokemon out. Second Dragonair comes out. It goes Thunder Wave as well, and now goes Dragon Breath, but it didn't do a crazy amount of damage. So we do get to knock that Pokemon out. We are fully paralyzed for 2 turns in a row on the next Dragonair though, and we're reaching the point where we might want to go for the Flail strats. Unfortunately, we can't survive Hyper Beam from Kingdra, so we lose. Let's try this one again, hoping maybe to get some flinches this time. We get a flinch on the first Dragonair. Second Dragonair misses the Thunder Wave, so this is just a much better range on this one. We get a crit on the third Dragonair. Here we are finally hacking against Claire. We can go for the headbutt right here. We get the flinch on Kingdra. We flinch it again, and we simply knock it out with no damage taken on the second attempt against Claire. So she's definitely calling hacks on that one, because how do we go from getting completely destroyed on the first attempt to beating her on the second attempt without a single point of damage? Clearly, we've got some hacks going on here, Steve, but you know, I know you're doing some of your own Pokemon content over there. Clearly, you've been learning how to hack the game in order to completely destroy things competitively. So, you know, you've clearly brought that to UrDoneSon here, and that means that Claire's gonna have to give us that badge. I mean, clearly, she messed up. She should have paralyzed us. She didn't, and we get the victory. I mean, the critical hit on the third Dragonair, plus the flinch on the second Dragonair, plus all the flinches on Kingdra was kind of lucky, but I mean, it happens reasonably enough with the headbutt that I think it's perfectly fine to let that stand, and we're ready to move on to Rival 5, possibly one of the tougher trainers in the entire game for us because of its access to flying type moves and everything, but I think we're going to get through this just fine once we add on the Earthquake. Let's just see how it actually works out though. So here as we get access to the Earthquake TM, I'm simply going to throw this on immediately to UrDoneSon. The question is, what move do we want to forget? Flail, while it can power up, I think might be the one to go since we've already got a decent normal type move in Headbutt. I'm not sure how often the Flail strategies will actually come in. Counter still could have some value in some really key situations where we know we're going to get a physical move, and that gives us the way to one-shot an opponent that we otherwise couldn't. So I'm going to go with this for now. We're going to forget Flail, we're going to learn Earthquake, and now we're going to try our hand at the rival. Definitely tell me if you think that's a mistake, Steve, but for now, we're going to try this and see if we can just get to the doorstep of the league. So first up, we've got the Sneasel out in front of us. I'm just going to go Headbutt right here. It turns out to be a two-hitter, and we get the flinch. It quick attacks the next turn, but that doesn't really matter. Out comes Golbat. We Headbutt here. We get a massive wing attack, but we do knock that Pokemon out, getting to level 42. Typhlosion comes out, but is slower. We hit the Earthquake and one-shot. There we go. Haunter comes out. We can also Earthquake this Pokemon. We've got the solution. The Kadabra comes out. Anything is probably fine to just KO this Pokemon nice and easy. And Magneton cannot stand up to an Earthquake, so just like that, we managed to get the nice easy victory on the rival, and we're ready to move on to the league with this Heracross. UrDoneSon turns out not to be done, Redeem Steve, and after 22 months, you have managed to get it here to the doorsteps of the league. Thanks for supporting me for such a massive amount of time. Now, as I mentioned, Redeem Steve is doing some of his own Pokemon content, so if you want to, definitely check that out. But like I said, I can't thank you enough for just all the support. And with that, we're ready to move on in this challenge. I think that Heracross has some chances here. We're just going to have to see how it goes. I'm really interested to see Mega Horn when it comes in and how that does for us as we go into the late game. But for now, I think we've got the tools that we need to get the victories in the next couple of sections, though maybe we run into a massive wall on Willy Boy and his psychic type moves. We might have to throw on the Mega Horn early. I'm not sure, but maybe Fury Cutter can simply carry us. We'll just have to find out in the next section. Thanks again. Appreciate ya. Let's check on our results so far. So with all of those bug types done, we have completed a massive number of Pokemon. We're up to 101 legit passers, and we've got 30 completed member picks. We've still got 2 more to do with the Jolteon and the Flareon in this episode. We're going to get all of our evolutions done. You're going to notice that Pinsir jumped back up into that member picks section because it's not actually officially supported by a member at the moment. So like I said, if you want to join the channel membership, feel free. There are tons of Pokemon that happen to be available right now. If we go all the way back to the Faulkner section, there are a lot of Pokemon that I actually think would be really cool to try in this series. I mean, we've still got Ivysaur sitting there. We've got Beedrill. We've got Vileplume. We've got Parasect. Amistar is in there. I mean, somebody's got to save that Togepi. If you've seen what Togepi has been doing over there in RSC, that Pokemon is kind of insane. We've got the Sunflora. We've got Yanma, which is a Pokemon I've never really had too much opportunity to play with. We've got the Delibird, which used to be supported, but is no longer supported by a channel member. So that's another Pokemon that people could pick up and support here. We've got the Smeargle back there, which probably deserves a little bit more attention as well. Just a ton of Pokemon that are available. So if you're the type of person who would like to support the channel either here on YouTube or in the brand new Patreon, feel free to dive in on the action. It helps me out massively as a small creator here on YouTube, as well as just being a fun way to give back to the community. But with my shameless plug out of the way, let's get back into our action where we've got the entire slate of evolutions. And I'm going to start with the legit evolutions, of course, and we're going to start with Eevee. Since it's kind of an interesting case as an unevolved form as a normal type, we always have to run this Pokemon even if its evolved forms fail because it's so different from them at the end of the day. It doesn't have nearly the type coverage, but it might still be able to find a way through this section. Let's find out. So picking up with our Eevee, we know Headbutt, Bite, Return, and Mudslap. We had to go Return strats in the previous section in order to deal enough damage to get through Jasmine. We also had Chuck as a potential roadblock to us, so we just had to go all in on those strats to get through, plus the Mudslap strats to be able to take down those Magnemites and cheese against that Steelix. Still at this point, I mean, we don't really have any stronger moves to get. Bite is basically our coverage move to go together with the Mudslap Mud Slap for some cheese. If I recall correctly, we can learn Shadow Ball, so that is another move that we could potentially get, and Iron Tail is available for coverage if we really need it, but I think we're mostly spamming away with the Headbutt in return. Though as a more physical attacker, maybe against a Ghost, we would prefer to go for the Shadow Ball. That's certainly going to be our strategy when we get to Will later, but for now, let's just see how we actually perform in this section. And here, sure enough, with no issues, we make it to the Marlboro Man, so it's time to see if we can manage to get through him with the Max Friendship return here. It is Stab, so it's as strong as we're possibly going to get, and maybe we can one-shot the Coughings. Let's find out. So first up, against the first Coughing, we go for return, and we do get the one-hit KO there, and that makes me think this is going to be a super easy fight to get through. We're already at level 40 here, but we turn out not to just have a guaranteed one-hit KO on the Coughings. We actually failed to knock out the third one, and that could be an issue. We still two-shot against the Wheezing, though, as we get to level 41. We can now knock out the next Coughing, and we'll just see if we get the range on the last one. We do. So just like that, Eevee manages to get through the Marlboro Man with no issues whatsoever. Now we're ready to go take on the rival, and we just have to see if the return is enough. Obviously, against the Magnemite and against the Haunter, we're going to have to go for some different moves. I think we bite on the Haunter, hoping to flinch it, and maybe on the Magnemite, the Mud Slaps are the best way to go. We'll just have to see. Let's test this and find out. So first up, we've got the Golbat. We're going straight for return here. It's not a one-hitter. We get a wing attack, but we can just bite that Pokemon down after that even. The Magnemite comes out. I'm going to Mud Slap here, trying to avoid the Thunder Wave. We do avoid it, so we get that out of the way nice and easy. I'm going to now bite the Ghost. It goes for Curse, but that's perfectly fine. Sneasel will come out and go Feint Attack, but we can just go return and one-shot that Pokemon. Now Meganium, I go return, doing half. It goes Reflect. That's actually bad for me with the Curse. We get body slammed and we get paralyzed and we lose. If we had actually managed to move one more turn, we would have won there. So we're going to have to try this again. And of course, if we can flinch the Haunter, we will win. So again, there are plenty of ways that we can get this to work out. Back to Meganium. This time it tries to Poison Powder, and that gives me the win on the second attempt against the rival. I could learn Takedown. I'm not going to learn Takedown. Return is already better than that move. So we're just simply going to move on with that. It was pretty close getting through the rival there, but it does ultimately work out, and the Stab return is putting in a lot of work here, and it's really the best that we can do with this first stage normal type Pokemon at this point in the game. So we're just gonna have to take it as we go through the rest of these randos. They should be easy, and it should just be a matter of going up and beating up on Wannabe Giovanni, and then we can make our way off to Clair, which I think we'll be able to get the ranges, but it's going to be very interesting to see if we can actually one-shot the Dragonairs. Maybe we need a Pink Bow. I'm not sure. We'll just test it and find out. And sure enough, we get to Mr. Wannabe Giovanni with no issues. I think we're going to sweep with the Stab return, but let's find out. First up, we get the Houndour. We go for return and just destroy that Pokemon. Out next comes the Coughing. It gets completely wrecked. It actually turns out to be a two-hitter, but we'll just Mud Slap it down. That brings out the Houndoom last. It doesn't have great defense, so return just ends it. And we easily get through Wannabe Giovanni. He's crying for Giovanni to come forgive him, save him, but we have successfully saved the radio tower from Team Rocket, and now it's time to make our way off to Clair. I'm going to plan to throw on the Pink Bow for that fight, but it might turn out that going for the flinch strategies with the Paralyzed Cure Berry is actually the best strategy. We'll just have to see when we actually get there. So at least on the Dragonair just before Clair, we did not one-shot. We just barely missed the range with the Stab return. So I'm going to try to go into Clair one time with a Pink Bow just to see if that will give me the ranges on the Dragonairs. If it doesn't, then we will switch into a Headbutt strat with a Paralyzed Cure Berry. But let's just see how this goes. So Clair attempt number one, we go return on the first Dragonair. We do get the one hitter, but it was a crit. Next Dragonair comes out. We still get the one hit KO as we get to level 47. Third Dragonair also goes down. So the Pink Bow is putting in work here. Now we go return on the Kingdra. We do over half. It misses the smoke screen, and we beat Clair without a single point of damage. That is how good this little Eevee is. I mean, it's basically on par with Gary Oak's Eevee in the anime. That's how I feel about this Pokemon. Clearly, we're just far too powerful. There was a reason his Eevee just like completely beat up Ash's Pikachu in the straight up one-on-one. You know, Brock was sitting there commenting on like how nice the Eevee's fur was as evidence of how well trained it was. They were showing like little glimmers in its eye as it was like getting ready to destroy Ash and his Pikachu. That's clearly what this Eevee is here, because it is ready to destroy all of Johto. And with that, we are going to force Claire to give us that gym badge. And we're going to make our way off to Rival 5, where I think we're going to have a pretty easy time getting through this fight. But let's just see how it actually works out here. We may need to go for some flinch strats. We may just need a little bit of luck when we get to the Haunter. I'm not sure. Shadow Ball could come in. I mean, it would make a lot of sense at this point since we've got Willy Boy coming up right after that. And it is a coverage move for us that could be useful even against Karen's Gengar. It's not like we have a ton of other coverage moves to learn. So it might be that Shadow Ball is just the best play for this Pokemon going forward. And we learn that instead of Bite and just keep the Headbutt for our flinch strats. I'm honestly not sure, but we may end up testing that in this next section. In fact, I just think it's so logical with Will upcoming that I'm going to go for that strategy immediately over the Bite. I think this is the way to go. It's not like our special attack is that bad, but I still think that pretty much anything that we would want to use Bite on, we would want to use Shadow Ball on more. So that's my strategy. Let's get into this fight and see how it goes. So first up, we get the Sneasel. We're going Return right here. That's an easy one-hit KO as we get to level 48. Golbat comes out next. We can go Return on that Pokemon. It's actually a two-hitter here. We'll just headbutt it down from there. Magneton comes out. I'm going Mud Slap. We do a little less than half here. It turns out to be a three-hitter. We do get paralyzed by the Thunder Wave, but we do ultimately knock that Pokemon out. Haunter comes out. We can go for the Shadow Ball. We're just fully paralyzed. Now we're confused, but we do still knock it out in a single hit. Out comes the Kadabra. We can go Shadow Ball right there. Now Meganium, we've got to go for the Max Friendship Return here, and we don't survive because of the paralysis plus the curse. Let's try this one again. I think it's pretty clear that if we don't get paralyzed by that Magneton, we're basically good to go. So we may want to change out and go for a Paralyzed Cure Berry. That may be the better strategy on this one. Or maybe we just want to change into a Quick Claw for that Haunter. I'm honestly not sure. We get to the Meganium with better HP this time, but we still go down after a critical hit from the Body Slam. And that makes me think, yeah, Paralyzed Cure Berry is going to be the way to go. Everything seems to be trying to paralyze us. So let's just let that be our new strategy. Now, I don't think we get the one-hit KO range on the Golbat anymore, so I'm going Headbutt to try to flinch it. We didn't get it, and we get a critical hit wing attack against us. But now we're back to the Magneton. If it hits Thunder Wave, we can heal once and hit another Mud Slap here. That's enough to keep us from getting paralyzed. Now against the Haunter, we can go for the Shadow Ball and not get any curses. We can stick with Shadow Ball or Return on the Kadabra. It really doesn't matter. And now we're back to the Meganium. I'm actually going to Headbutt this Pokemon. It goes for the Poison Powder, and then we can not quite get the KO on the next turn with Return, but we survive. It's perfectly fine. We managed to beat the rival. So with the Paralyzed Cure Berry strats, it's really not that bad to get through the rival there. And now we're ready to go stand on the steps of the league. I have to think if we get here with Eevee, that means that all the evolutions get here, but let's test them and see. We're going to do our 3 legit challengers first: Vaporeon, Espeon, and Umbreon, but then we'll come back and we'll look at our channel member picks, the Jolteon and the Flareon. So let's just see how they actually work out. So coming in with Vaporeon, we were running Surf, Bite, Headbutt, and Mud Slap. It's a pretty similar moveset to what we just had with the little Eevee. The difference, of course, is that we have Stab Surf instead, and we're much more of a special attacker. So we're going to be biased towards using Surf as much as possible and using other moves that are physical less often, but let's just see how this actually works for us as we go through. We could also learn Ice-type moves to help us against the Meganium here if we really need it, but I think we'll sweep through most of these random rockets just with Surf strats. So let's just make our way to the Marlboro Man and see if we can get the easy KOs there. Here, in fact, via level up, we get to learn Aurora Beam, and I think this move could be really useful. I'm actually going to forget Mud Slap to learn Aurora Beam here. That will give us a super effective move against the Meganium that's coming up. And I think we just want a plethora of special moves as much as we can, since our special attack is so much higher than our normal physical attack stat. Of course, we can always upgrade the move Aurora Beam to something like Blizzard if we absolutely need it, but I'm going to test everything and just see how it actually works out. Here against the Marlboro Man, however, I think there's only one strategy. We're going to go Surf the whole way. We one-shot that first Coughing. Second Coughing comes out and also gets completely destroyed. Out comes the third Coughing. It never stood a chance here. Now we get the Wheezing. He's just sending things out in standard order, but even Wheezing cannot stand up to a Surf, and that means we've got an easy victory here. I'm just gonna speed through the last couple. We completely doused the Marlboro Man, and he never stood a chance. And with that, we're ready to make our way into the basement. The brand new Aurora Beam could come in really clutch here against the rival, so let's just see how it actually works out for us in this battle. So Rival 4 attempt number 1. Interestingly, Surf and Aurora Beam are pretty close in power here, but Aurora Beam is slightly stronger against the Golbat. It still doesn't get the one-hit KO, but we do get the two-hitter and take that Pokemon down. Magnemite comes out. We can just go Surf here since it's neutral, and it gets the easy one-hitter. Meganium, now let's go for Aurora Beam. It looks like a two-hitter, and it misses the Poison Powder, so we simply get the easy victory on that one. We get to level 38 as the Haunter comes out. I'm just going to bite this Pokemon in one shot, and that brings out the Sneasel. We can just go back to our Surf here. It goes Quick Attack and does basically nothing. We've got so much HP as a Vaporeon that it just never stood a chance of actually knocking us out. So just like that, we do manage to get through that rival fight on the first attempt. We can now just beat up on all these random rockets, and we're going to completely stunt on Mr. Wannabe Giovanni, but we may as well just enjoy the stunting while we're here. So let's get to that and get the easy victory. And sure enough, we make it to Mr. Wannabe Giovanni with no issues. He's surprised we managed to get this far, but clearly, I mean, we've got a Vaporeon we're going to completely crush, but let's see how it goes. So against the Houndour, we just go Surf in one shot. That brings out the Coughing next. Once again, Surf will destroy this Pokemon. And now we've got the Houndoom coming out. We go Surf, and it never stood a chance against us. So the Executive goes down with no issues. And now we're ready to move on to Claire. We've got Aurora Beam for the Dragons in her gym. For the Water types, we might still be able to go Surf just because the Seadras and Horsies don't have a lot of great defenses. And then when we get to the actual Kingdra, we might be going Bite strats. We'll just have to see how that works, but we've got enough moves that I think we can get this to go. Let's test it and see. And sure enough, we have zero issues getting through any of the randos inside of Claire's gym. I'm not sure we even need a held item here. I'm just gonna go in and try to beat Claire straight up. No held items. Let's see how this goes. So first up on the first Dragonair, we just go for Aurora Beam and completely destroy that Pokemon. We get to level 44 right here. We can go back to Aurora Beam on the second Dragonair, completely wrecking it. Third Dragonair, never stood a chance, obviously. That brings us to the Kingdra. I'm going to go Bite here in order to get some flinches. We get one flinch there. It misses a Smokescreen. She goes for the Hyper Potion. Now she finally does hit a Smokescreen, and now she Hyper Beams on me, but we simply bite her down. So she got exactly one hit. The hit didn't do anything that really ever even gave us any stress in that battle. Claire can complain all that she wants, but Vaporeon clearly is just way too good in order to ever lose to Claire there, especially because we get access to Aurora Beam via level up. It's just completely OP at this point in the game, and I have to think that this Pokemon has everything that it needs to absolutely crush the late game here. We've got so many good moves. We've got so much HP. Like, honestly, if we get really desperate, we could go for like rest strats and I think just start crushing with that. So I have to think that Vaporeon has at least decent chances of getting through the league. If anything, it might want like a hidden power dragon or something just for Lance. That's the part where I think we might actually struggle, since he is running some thunder strats with Rain Dance that could affect us there. But I think in the worst case, we end up going Blizzard and we just get through those Pokemon. So we'll just have to see how it goes. But for now, we're just simply going to tell these old guys about how great Vaporeon is. They're going to tell us that they looked at Vaporeon for hours on Billy Boy's PC back in Gen 1. That's why they're all like sitting here, you know, in the dark in this little den here. They've got to discuss what they used to look at before the days of VPNs. But with that, we're ready to move on. Let's go take on that rival. Let's get this Pokemon to the steps of the league where we've got the Bite strats, we've got the HP. I just think we get through literally everything until we get to maybe Karen's Vileplume, but even then we should have the moves to get the job done. And then Lancey Boy could be a little bit random. We might have to fish for some freeze or something. But when we get to the Aerodactyl and the Charizard, of course, we'll have super effective moves with Stab. And for the Dragonites, I just have to think that at that point, point, some sort of ice type move will get the job done, but we'll test it all out and see. But with that, we've made it to the rival. So attempt number 1 right here. We're just going to go Surf against the first Sneasel and one-shot that Pokemon. Magneton comes out. I'll just stick with the Surf, and that's another one-hit KO. Meganium comes out. We're going to go Aurora Beam. It's a 2-hitter, but it misses Poison Powder again, so we get through super easily. Golbat will stick with the Aurora Beam and one-shot that Pokemon. Haunter comes out. We can go for Surf even here, I think, and that is enough to KO it. And finally, the Kadabra. We'll just go for Bite because we can, and that works. So just like that, we managed to get through to the steps of the league. We didn't even take any damage from Rival 5, and now I think we're just perfectly set up to get through Will. I think we're set up nicely to get through Koga and Bruno, like I said. So it's really going to be a little bit on Karen where we might have to reset, and we might have a little bit of trouble on Lancey Boy because of the Thunders, but I think we'll find a way through. We'll just have to test it and see. But for now, hey, this Pokemon's through. Let's check our other evolutions. I'm going to move on to Espeon now and see how it goes. So it is Espeon time. We're coming in with a moveset of Confusion, Tail Whip, Headbutt, and Mud Slap. Of course, the Confusion will be pretty good against these Rockets, and we're going to learn Psybeam very soon, and then Psychic comes in at level 47. Honestly, my biggest concern is that we're not going to have nearly as good of moves against the Houndoom when we get to the end of this next section. That could make that fight in particular hard. Plus, we don't have a great move for the Sneasel that's going to be on the Rivals team. So we actually have, I think, a harder setup here with this Espeon as we go through this section. We're again mostly a special attacker, so we really do prefer to have the special moves as much as possible, but there aren't a lot of special moves to learn that aren't psychic type. Still, we'll just have to test everything here and see, but like I said, in a few levels we're going to get access to Psybeam. That should make this section a lot easier for everything that isn't dark type, and then we're just going to have to find a way through the dark types, maybe with the Headbutts and Mud Slaps to get it to go. So here I do get to learn Psybeam, and just for the sake of PP management, I'm actually going to forget Tail Whip and add the Psybeam there. So we'll have 2 psychic type moves as we go through this. One stronger to actually use in battle, one a little bit weaker to use against all the randos. I think this is the way to go. And with that, we can make it to the Marlboro Man, where I think we've got the perfect setup. I think we just sweep with the Psybeam, but let's find out. So first coughing, we go Psybeam and get the easy one-hit KO. Second coughing, we can stick with the same, getting the easy victory. The third coughing comes out and gets completely destroyed. That will bring out the Wheezing next. We can just one-shot that Pokemon with Psybeam as well as we get to level 37. And with that, we have no issues in this fight whatsoever. None of the coughings and Wheezings can stand up to the power of the mind that is Psychic, or Psybeam rather, on this Espeon. And with that, we're ready to make our way down into the basement, take on the rival, where the biggest challenge is likely to be the Magnemite. I think we should throw on the Paralyzed Cure Berry, and then we're just gonna have to kind of headbutt our way through when we get to that Sneasel, I think. So let's just see how that actually goes. So Rival 4 attempt number 1. First up on the Golbat, I'm simply going Psybeam. I didn't even heal coming in, but I still one-shot that Pokemon. Sneasel comes out next. I'm going to Headbutt. We get a flinch there. We flinch again, and we simply get through with no damage from that Pokemon. That brings out the Magnemite. I go for the Mud Slap. It misses Thunder Wave, so I get the easy victory on that one, getting to level 38. Haunter, we can go Psybeam and destroy that Pokemon, and that brings out the final Meganium. Psybeam does over half. It body slams and paralyzes me. I managed to recover with the Paralyzed Cure Berry, and we get the easy victory. So even without being healed, we come in and completely stunt on the rival, partially thanks to the flinch strats, but hey, we'll take it. Let's move on in this one. Now, I'm going to admit, this is one of the few cases where I'm actually a little bit nervous about the final executive because of the fact that we don't have any good moves to use against him. His ace can just be completely immune to our stab typing, so he might actually cause problems if he starts hitting a bunch of bites and feint attacks. We could lose. We're just going to have to test it and find out. It's probably going to come down to flinch luck if I have to guess. At least we should outspeed, and that should be our main advantage in that one. Until then, though, I expect that everything gets completely wrecked, so we can simply spam away with whichever move we want to use and just get the easy victories. Still here, we make it to the final executive with no issues, so I'm going to test him and see just how he goes. Let's see if we get the nice easy victory here. So executive attempt number 1, I'm going to headbutt the Houndour. We get the 1-hit KO on that Pokemon. Houndoom comes out next. We headbutt doing about half. It bites and gets a crit, but we still managed to get through in just 2 hits, and the final coughing never stood a chance. So we simply Psybeam it down and get the victory. And with that, we're ready to move on to Clair. We're gonna have to see if our Psybeam is enough to get through all the randos and hopefully also get us through the Dragonairs. We do have a massive special attack stat, which should make this one possible, but we don't have great defenses. That's our big problem as we go into the next gym. Still, I'm hopeful that we'll be able to get the KOs and just get to that Kingdra. And once we get there, we should have really reasonable chances of getting through as long as we have decent health. Now, I will say, I always found it a little bit weird that Red has this Pokemon on his team since he's essentially supposed to be like the Gen 1 trainer. I take it that it's because of the fact that Blue has Alakazam that they decided to give him the Espeon for a psychic type, but honestly, I feel like they could have given him some other Pokemon that was a Gen 1 Pokemon to round out his team, especially because he is the legendary trainer. Give him a Mew, come on. Like, that would be awesome to give him a Mew as a Gen 1 Pokemon, or give him something like that. He could be rocking the Mewtwo, guys. Come on. That would be amazing. Still, the fact that he has this Espeon usually is really trolly on that final battle. So I'll be very interested to see how it goes when we get our chances to get revenge by, for example, going Mud Slap on his Espeon while his Espeon's just trying to sand attack us. It could be very fun to see. Still, I'd love to hear if anybody knows the actual canon reason why Espeon is on that team at the end of the game rather than a Gen 1 Pokemon, especially since Blue clearly stuck with just a Gen 1 team at the end. Anyhow, we have made it to Clair with our Espeon, but we did not one-shot against the Dragonair just before her, so I don't think we're getting the 1-hit KOs here. We might need to do like a Mud Slap into Psybeam to knock these Pokemon out. I'm honestly not sure. We're just gonna have to test it and see. We don't have any items that can boost psychic type moves. You can only get the Twisted Spoon by a trade from Gen 1. So we're gonna have to see if this is possible or not to get through. I'm honestly not sure how much luck it's going to take. But here we are, Clair attempt number 1. We might be best off going for the headbutt here for a flinch. We don't get the flinch on the first Dragonair and it gets the Thunder Wave on me. I heal with the Paralyzed Cure Berry and then knock it out the next turn. We leveled up right here. Let's see if Psybeam can get the 1-hit KO now. It does not. So we can see pretty clearly we would still need to be going for like a headbutt flinch or something in order to get the ranges that we need in order to knock these Pokemon out. Still, we managed to get to Kingdra. I'm going to try to cheese here a little bit with some Mud Slaps. Unfortunately, we don't get the luck and we lose. So let's try this one again. This time we flinch the first Dragonair so we can knock it out with no paralysis. Second Dragonair comes out. We once again go for headbutt. It does hit Thunder Wave, but we can knock it out after that with the Psybeam. The third Dragonair comes out. I'm going back to the headbutt, but we do get paralyzed here as well, but it misses a slam. So we are going to the final Kingdra on full health. Let's see what Psybeam does. It goes smoke screen, so we miss a Psybeam, but once we do hit it, we did about 45%, I would say, plus we confused this Kingdra. It hits itself and we hit the Psybeam, so we win. We get through on the next attempt with no damage, just paralysis, and Claire's gonna call hacks, but hey, this is what psychic types do. This is our strategy, basically. When all else fails, confuse the opponent so that they lose. And with that, we're ready to move on in the game. I'm honestly not sure how this Pokemon's gonna do going through the league. We have a kind of tough matchup against Willy Boy. I think we might have to throw on Shadow Ball for that one in order to make it work. Then we should do really well overall against Koga, except for his Forretress. That's the only Pokemon I'm really nervous about there. Bruno should be an absolute joke if we get there, but then Karen might actually just be a hard wall with the Umbreon coming out first. We might not have any moves that are actually good enough to get through the Umbreon on that team, and that might be the end of us. So we'll just have to see as we go through with Espeon. Speed will always be our main advantage as well as our massive special attack, but it's not like this Pokemon's super defensive or survivable. So the second that we actually run into tough, super effective moves, we might be done with this one. And at that point, if anybody wants to save an Espeon, go for it. In fact, you can get in early and support a Pokemon that's still in the series if you really want to, just to have your name next to it. Still, I'm going to try to give this Pokemon every possible opportunity opportunity to get through when we actually get to the Karen. I'm just saying that might actually be the high water mark of this Pokemon. Still, if we do manage to get through that, we should wreck shop in Kanto for most of the section. So then it will just be a question of whether or not we can get through at the end against Red when we're kind of under leveled relative to his Pokemon, but we'll just have to see. But before any of that, we've got Rival 5. He comes out with his Sneasel right here. We're going to headbutt this Pokemon. We do about half. It goes Fury Cutter, but that doesn't do enough, so we easily get through that Pokemon. We'll Psybeam now on the Golbat, getting the one-hit KO. Magneton comes out. Here's where I'm going to Mud Slap. It misses the Thunder Wave, which is nice. Now it hits Sonic Boom, which doesn't really matter, so we knock that one out nice and easy. Haunter can simply get Psybeamed and destroyed. Now we've got Kadabra out. I'm going to go Headbutt on this Pokemon and get the one-hitter. We get to level 46 as Meganium comes out. I go Psybeam. It does about half. We get Poison Powdered, but that really doesn't matter. We get the easy victory on the first attempt against the Rival. And just like that, we've made it to the league with our Espeon. We'll have to see how far it goes, but for now, it's ready to take on Willy Boy, probably with Shadow Ball, but who knows? We'll experiment with every strategy here and just see what actually works in the end. But with that done, it's now time to check in on our Umbreon. So Umbreon time, we're coming in with Headbutt, Confuse Ray, Pursuit, and Mud Slap. We will learn Feint Attack in this section, but that's really it as far as new moves that we're going to get that are actually useful to us. So I'm not sure if this is going to be enough. Mean Look, I don't think will really do enough for us that it's worth anything. We might end up having to go for like Max Friendship Return here because we just don't have great offensive stats. This could turn out to be kind of rough. Still, we're just going to have to test it and find out. So let's see how we go. Maybe just the sheer defensiveness of this Pokemon will be enough to get us the victories. And sure enough, with no issues, we do make it to the final executive. Plus, we've picked up Feint Attack as a same type move that's a little bit stronger than Pursuit. So let's just see how this goes. First things first, against the Coughing, I'm going Feint Attack here. Since it is special, it's still a 2-hit KO. Fortunately, they're going to try to go for things like Smokescreen against us, which is just perfectly fine with us when we're using Feint Attack. So we knock out the second Coughing nice and easy. Third Coughing goes Sludge, but it doesn't do nearly enough thanks to our defensive bulk here. Now against the Wheezing, this is looking like a 3-hitter. So I'm going to confuse this Pokemon just because I don't want it to go Boom if possible. It goes Sludge instead, and it does poison me, but I do ultimately take that Pokemon down and get to level 37. And now if we can just manage to survive against these last two Coughings, we should be able to get a victory here. And fortunately, we are able to get the job done. We had a Goldberry. I'm not sure we actually needed the healing from that, but we'll certainly take the victory. So now it's time to go take on the Rival in the basement, where generally speaking, I mean, we don't really have any type weaknesses against this team, so we should be able to get through pretty easily. But let's just see how this actually plays out. We might need a Paralyzed Cure Berry. We might need a Bitter Berry to avoid confusion. I'm honestly not sure. I just don't expect to one-shot anything here. So let's see how this actually works out. So first up, we've got the Golbat. I'm going to go for Confuse Ray on this Pokemon to hopefully reduce its chances of hitting me. It returns the Confuse Ray, but now I Headbutt. It hits a Wing Attack, but we easily tank that. Now it goes for Leech Life, which does basically nothing, and we managed to get through just fine on that Pokemon. The Magnemite comes out. It misses a Thunder Wave after a Mud Slap, so it's just a 2-hit KO. Now we've got the Sneasel. I'm going for the Headbutt as it's just going Quick Attack. It screeches at me, but fortunately we didn't take too much damage there. Now Meganium, I think this is another spot to Confuse Ray. It misses the Poison Powder. I can go for the Headbutt. We're not doing a lot of damage here against this Pokemon, but it hits itself twice in confusion, so we take it down. Haunter, we can go for the Feint Attack. That's the one spot we get the advantage, and we managed to get through on the first attempt. This Pokemon is just a lot more tedious than the previous couple of evolutions because we don't have anything that's that strong. Like, technically, the strongest move we could get on this Pokemon would be Hidden Power Dark, and we may have to go for it, but it's only 70 base power. It's only slightly stronger than the Feint Attack here. So unless the Feint Attack is like just barely missing a KO on something, going for the Hidden Power Dark doesn't actually make that much sense. And we're really just going to have to rely a lot more on cheese, basically, to get through the toughest fights. Still, Umbreon, while it is tedious, does make it to the final Rocket Executive with no issues. So let's see how Wannabe Giovanni does against our Headbutts and Confuse Rays here. Hopefully we can get the victory on the first attempt. So So first up on the Houndour, I'm just going to go straight for Headbutt here. That is an easy one-hit KO victory. The Coughing, we can go Feint Attack because it has lower special defense, but we still don't get the one-hitter and we get poisoned. So I'm going to just Mud Slap it down. Now the Houndoom comes out. I go Headbutt. I do about half. We get Embered, but we've got enough HP that we can easily survive, even with the poison on. And with that, we're ready to move on in this one. I think when we get to Clair, we're going to have to go for the Paralyzed Cure Berry, but even more importantly, we're just going to have to Headbutt and hope for some luck because we just honestly don't have anything good for this particular gym. We can obviously go Feint Attack if she starts going for the smoke screens against us, but against the Dragonairs, I think we're going to have to go for the Headbutts, trying to avoid the paralysis and just hope that we get the flinches there that we need. So we'll just have to see how that actually works out. And here against the trainers in Clair's gym, our moves weren't even strong enough to one-shot against the random Dratini's in here. So it looks like a 3-hit KO with Headbutt on the Dragonairs. So we might have to go max Friendship Return. We might have to power up somehow in order to get this to go. Iron Tail is a strat as well, but no matter how you look at it, there's just not a lot of good stuff happening for us here. We're just going to have to test this and see if we can get the victory or not, but I think the Paralyzed Cure Berry is the best solution that we've got. So Clair attempt number 1, I'm going straight for the Headbutt first. We get paralyzed by the first Dragonair. Let's see if Feint Attack gets the range to KO it. It does not. So this is a 3-hit KO no matter how we look at it. That might justify going for Confuse Ray to try to confuse the opponent and then going for the Headbutts after that. Because if they do hit themselves in confusion, that does give us a chance to get through. Here, unfortunately, we're paralyzed for a bunch of turns, so we're getting on very low health, and Kingdra simply hyper beams me down. We're gonna have to try this again. So in this case, I'm going to go Confuse Ray first and then try to get the Headbutts on this Pokemon, either getting flinches or getting it to hit itself in confusion. We're gonna have to do the same on the next Dragonair. Unfortunately, we get paralyzed yet again, so we're gonna need a lot of luck here with confusion luck, I think, to get this to go. We get the next Dragonair to hit itself a couple times, so we're going back to Kingdra on better than half health this time. It goes for the Dragon Breath. I'm going for the Confuse Ray. It goes for the Smoke Screen, at which point I think we go for the Feint Attacks here. Now it Hyper Beams, we survive. We can go for the Feint Attacks again while it's confused. We're just hoping that it will hit itself in confusion. Unfortunately, it snaps out, but we survive with 1 HP and we actually managed to get the victory because she can't move on the turn that she recharges. Oh, Clair. Oh, she just gives us the win. Are you kidding me, Clair? Epic punt right there. But hey, we'll take it. We're ready to move on in this challenge. I thought we were going to be stuck here resetting for a hot minute against Clair. And no, she just is like, how can I punt this time? How about I use Hyper Beam and don't get the KO? With that, we're ready to move on. And this one is just not looking great no matter how you look at it. Like, the damage output isn't there. Like, yes, we can learn things like Shadow Ball, but I don't think we'll really need it against Willy Boy. We'll see. Maybe it does a little bit more damage than the Feint Attack because of its higher power, plus the fact that we're a physical attacker, but only slightly compared to our special attack. I'm honestly not sure how that's going to go, but Screech strats could come in at that point and maybe be useful for getting us the setups with physical moves. So we have to keep that in mind. That's where things like Return and Shadow Ball could actually be really useful, is when we combine them with Screech plus the Confuse Ray, and then we just keep Feint Attack for some same type damage when we need it against key opponents. I just don't know what this Pokemon's going to do when it gets to Bruno, and I don't know what we're going to do if we ever get to Lance, because I don't think we're going to have the damage output. And against Bruno, while yes, we are very defensive, I don't know that we're going to be able to survive against the onslaught of the fighting type moves, especially when we don't have anything strong to hit him with instead. Like, we would so love to get Psychic on this Pokemon in this section of the game. That would help massively with Bruno and a lot of the league, honestly. But unfortunately, we're just stuck with significantly weaker moves as a dark type. Still, we'll worry about all of that when we actually get to the league. And at least the first league member should be super easy for this one, but we'll just have to see how it actually works out. Before that, though, we've got to take down this rival. Let's see if we can manage the victory or not. I think we go for a Paralyzed Cure Berry in this one and hope that that is enough to get us through. So first up against the rival, he leads off with Sneasel, of course. We're going to go for Headbutt. We get the 2-hitter. It just hits me with Screech. Golbat comes out next. I'm going to go for Headbutt here. This looks like a 3-hitter. It goes Leech Life and Wing Attack though, and that allows me to get the victory on that Pokemon. Magneton here is where we're going to have to hope for a little bit of luck. We get the first Mud Slap, and it misses both turns with Thunder Wave and Sonic Boom, so that's nice. I'm going to confuse the Meganium, and Meganium has perfectly balanced stats, but I still think we go Headbutt for the flinches here. It misses Poison Powder, now it flinches, and then it goes down to a crit. Against the Kadabra, we can go for the Feint Attack and just one-shot that Pokemon, and now against Haunter, we can go for the same, completely destroying that Pokemon. So with that, we actually get through the rival on the first attempt with no major issues. We're just survivable enough to take the hits. So we'll definitely take it, but now we've got to see how this Pokemon does through the rest of the league. Still, that does it for all of our legit evolutions. We now have to check in on our member picks, the Jolteon and the Flareon. So let's see how these Pokemon actually go. So here we are now ready to run Flailbro, the Jolteon being supported by the TheKakeKing, and we're ready to see how we do in this section. We've got Thundershock, Double Kick, Flail, and Mud Slap on our moveset. We are going to learn Pin Missile at level 36, Thunder Wave at level 42. I don't think we get to Agility at level 47, at least not until the rival, and we don't get Thunder in this section, though we could always go for the Game Quarter TM if we really need a stronger same type move. The question is, will this be enough? We've got massive speed, we've got decent special attack, but we don't have a lot of new moves coming in, so we're just gonna have to see how this actually works out as we go through this section. Still, I have to expect that we're going to do reasonably well as we go through this, though the Dragonairs will block all of our same type moves, so who knows? That's where the Thunder might actually come into play because we need it in order to actually deal enough damage. Still, we'll just have to see. Now here we do get a level up and learn Pin Missile. I'm not sure if it's worth it to learn this move or not. I think I'm going to stick with my moveset as it is, since Pin Missile only has some very limited usefulness to us. And I think most of the time we're going to be better off with our moveset as it currently stands right now. But tell me if you think that's a mistake down below, especially if you're the TheKakeKing. I will definitely take your opinions into consideration on how to run this one going forward. For now though, we are making our way up to the Marlboro Man, and it's just a question if we can actually manage to get through him nice and easy with the Thunder Shocks, or is he going to be too survivable? Let's find out. First up, we've got the first Coughing. We can see we do not one-shot this Pokemon. I will simply Mud Slap it down from there. It looks like a single Mud Slap plus the Thunder Shock is enough to take them out, so that's the strategy that I'm generally going to go for on the Coughings, trying to reduce their accuracy before I go for the KO. We do manage to get to the Wheezing here. I'm actually going to give it a couple of accuracy drops if I can, and it goes boom and knocks me out. That's why I was going for the accuracy drops, just in case I could get it to miss with the explosion. Unfortunately, we didn't get the luck to get that to work, partially because we got one accuracy drop on us from the Coughings. This time we've even got 2 accuracy drops from the Coughings, so I'm not sure how this is actually going to go. And they're going hard on the accuracy, 3 accuracy drops now, so this could turn out to be a little bit rough. And here we get poisoned, so we simply lose in the second attempt as well. So this is not looking great. Granted, we could change into Flail if we get on really low health, but this is turning out to be a significantly harder fight than any of the evolutions so far. Still, this time we have no accuracy drops as we go to the Wheezing, so I'm just going to take the opportunity to drop its accuracy as much as I can in case it goes boom, and now just knock it out with a couple of Thunder Shocks. That gets us to level 37. I think this is the last Coughing that actually knows self-destruct, and we knock it out. So now we should just be able to go Thunder Shock on this last Pokemon and finally get the victory against the Marlboro Man. But it took a handful of attempts to actually get through that one, so I'm not sure how we're actually doing here. Still, we can go down to the rival. We've got a super effective Thunder Shock for the very first Golbat. It's still probably a 2-hitter if I have to guess, but then we've got the Double Kick to help us out when we get to the Meganium and when we get to the Magnemite. So, you know, maybe we can get through this just fine. I'm not sure what item to even put on here, but let's just test this and see how this fight actually goes. So first up, we've got the Golbat out. We're just going straight for Thundershock here. It's a 2-hitter, but Wing Attack does basically nothing, so we take that one down. Magnemite comes out. I'm going Double Kick, and we do get the KO on that Pokemon. Haunter comes out after that. We'll go Thundershock. It's not enough for the 1-hitter, but it goes Shadow Ball, so no curse. That's perfectly fine. Sneasel, we can go back to the Double Kick here, completely destroying that Pokemon. And now Meganium, I'm going Double Kick. It did very little, but I think this is our best play until we get on lower health. Now we can maybe change into Flail, and it paralyzes me. Oh no, we get body slammed right there. We probably need a paralyzed Cure Berry in order to get through this one. So next attempt, we do get cursed by the Haunter, which is pretty bad, but we still managed to knock out that Sneasel nice and easy. Let's go for the Double Kick on the Meganium. We get cursed. It goes Reflect against me. I'll go Thundershock. It body slams. At this point, I think we have to go Flail. We're probably hoping for the crit. Unfortunately, we couldn't survive, so we're gonna have to try this again. So this time we get to go Flail on the Meganium on kind of low health, but we couldn't get the KO. We would have needed a crit there in order to knock it out, so we're gonna have to try this yet again. And the entire issue seems to be that we can't one-shot against the Haunter here. Most of the time it goes Curse in that situation, and then when you're cursed, you just don't have enough HP here to get through the Meganium. It does go for the poison on us this time. Let's see what Flail does. It still does not get the KO. So I get the feeling that we need to go Thunder here as our best play. Like I've said many times, it is legally available at this point and legitimately available. And when we've got a member pick here, I'm just going to be a little bit more liberal about throwing that on, but at least that will give us a better chance of one-shotting against that Haunter, and maybe that's all we actually need. So here, of course, Thunder will one-shot the Golbat nice and easy. We can now Double Kick again on the Magnemite. We're going to have to land this Thunder here on the Haunter, but that is enough to one-hit KO. That brings out Sneasel. We can go back to the Double Kick, and now on the Meganium, we can even go Thunder here with a nice crit in order to take it to low health, and just like that, the Thunders get the job done. So Thunder seems to be the proper play here with this Jolteon at this point, and now we should have a pretty easy time getting through all these randos, provided that we actually manage the accuracy luck. So let's just see how this actually works out. Now here we also get a level up and learn Thunder Wave, which could be useful in some spots to paralyze opponents. I'm honestly not sure, but I actually think I might forget Flail at this point. Yes, it's the move that got us through Falkner at the beginning of the game, but at this point it's not that great of a move. I mean, we have to wait till we get on really low health, so I think we might be better off going for the Thunder Wave strats just to have that extra chance to go for paralysis as our way to get through an otherwise really tough fight. So I'm just at least going to throw it on. Maybe it's a mistake. We could always throw on something like Headbutt there instead if we decide that we need it, but for now we've made it to the final Rocket Executive. Let's see how he goes. Up against the first Houndour, we can just go Double Kick here and get the easy victory on that Pokemon. Coughing comes out next. I'm actually out of PP in Thunder. Oh no. Still, we'll just sit here and spam away with the Mud Slaps. And now against the Houndoom, we can Double Kick. It's going to take a couple of turns to knock this one out, but it's an easy victory nonetheless. Thunder might have one-shot there, but at the end of the day, we get the job done. But with that, we're now going to have to make our way over to Clair, where we might be going for our own Thunder Wave strats against the Kingdra and then trying to use Thunder to take it down. I'm honestly not sure if Thunder is going to be strong enough to get through just even the Dratinis in this next section. I'm not confident in the move Double Kick to get the job done as well. So this could turn out to be a kind of tough section for this Jolteon. We're just going to have to see how much damage we can actually do. Fortunately, we have neutral damage with Thunder against the Kingdra, and that's probably going to be what gets us through in the end. Now, fortunately, in the gym, the basic Dratinis are going down in a single hit to Thunder. So as long as we can manage to connect, we will be able to get through those Pokemon. I'm going to have to see what the range is on the Dragonairs, because I'm pretty sure that it's not going to be enough given that it's resisted, but still, it is the same type move, so it might work out. We'll just have to see. So on the Dragonair just before Clair, we can see that it is in fact a 2-hit KO with Thunder. So it's on that basis that I think we're going for like a Mud Slap into Thunder, or maybe a Double Kick into Thunder sort of strategy. Let's put on a Paralyzed Cure Berry just so that we have good chances of actually getting through this one. So Claire attempt number 1 right here. I'm going to try to go Mud Slap first. That did not do enough damage, I don't think. So we're going to have to double kick from there. We do manage to take out that first Dragonair. Let's go Thunder on the next Dragonair, and it is a 2-hitter, just as expected. Here against the third Dragonair, we get a miss from Slam, and we managed to paralyze it and knock it out, even though it paralyzed me. So now we've got the Kingdra out. I'm going to go for the Thunder Wave first. It went for Hyper Beam after a smoke screen against me. We do finally manage to land a Thunder right there. She Hyper Potions. We land another Thunder. Now let's see if we can just double kick it down. Sure enough, we can. So in the end, we actually beat Claire on the first attempt. It wasn't perfect, but hey, she misses enough moves and gives us chances, so we'll take it. And with that, we're ready to move on in this challenge. So we're going to, of course, tell these old guys about how we're so strong that even electric type moves are good enough to get you through the dragon type gym in our case. And Claire obviously is so impressed. She's gonna have to give us that badge. She's going to go tell Lance that he is clearly going to get wrecked if we ever get there on the basis that he's a flying type trainer. But we're just going to take this opportunity to hopefully go stunt on our rival and make our way to the steps of the league, where at least against Willy Boy, the Zatus and the Slowbro should essentially be free if we can just manage to hit them with the Thunders. It's really just the Exeggutor that we're going to have to worry about on that team. Maybe that was the argument for learning the move Pin Missile, but at the end of the day, I think we'll be able to find enough other moves to get through it. Even if we end up having to go Thunder there and rely on some paralysis or something, I'm sure we'll eventually get it to go. But without further ado, it is Rival 5 time. Let's see if we can actually manage a victory here. Of course, he leads off with the Sneasel. I'm just going to double kick this Pokemon, easily taking it down. Magneton comes out. We're going for the double kick there as well, but it is not a one-hit KO. So a little bit bad for us there. Now the Haunter gets to go Curse. We do knock it out, but still not great. We'll go ahead and knock out the Kadabra, but it uses Future Sight against me. The Meganium goes Reflect, and we're going Thunder in order to try to knock it out. We get hit by Future Sight and we get destroyed. We're going to have to try this again with the Paralyzed Curaberry on because of that Magneton. So back again, we're going to Mud Slap against that Magneton this time and then go for the double kick to take it down. We're back to Haunter. We hit Thunder this time, so it doesn't get the chance to go for Curse. We knock out the Kadabra, but it did use Future Sight. Now we're going for Thunder. I'm going to double kick once against the Meganium. It goes Body Slam, but now a Thunder will end it. And that brings us to the final Golbat, where we just Thunder and get the victory. So we beat the rival in the second attempt. We just needed to throw on a Paralyzed Curaberry there, and it works perfectly fine. And at the end of the day, the Cake King is standing right here at the steps of the league. So with that, I just want to give you a massive thank you, Cake King. You're obviously supporting here. You're over on RSC. You're an absolute legend. I cannot thank you enough for the support. Already 21 months, already here for 21 months as a channel member is absolutely incredible. So thank you, and let's keep this Pokemon going. But with that, we're to our last Pokemon of the day. It is Flaileon, the Flareon that is running Headbutt, Ember, Flail, and of course, Mud Slap. Now, this Pokemon is more of a physical attacker than a special attacker. It's being supported by channel member Shubham Varshney, and I think we're going to have to go for more physical moves. There's a decent chance we learn Fire Blast. Like, our next level up move will be Fire Spin, which is trash. Smog is coming in soon, which is also trash. We won't get anywhere near Flamethrower. We can always learn the max power return though, and that might be our key. And otherwise, Fire Blast is likely to play if we run into a wall, especially against a Haunter. That's gonna be our strategy, I think. So we're just gonna have to see how this goes. For now, I'm going to just make my way through the randos and see how they work out with this current moveset. Just noting that we're mostly going to want to spam the Headbutt because we are such a physical attacker. I've always found it strange that they made Fire types in the early gens mostly physical when all Fire type moves were special. They seem to have done the exact same thing in Gen 2 to the Dark types in general, which just makes no sense to me whatsoever. Like, why not match the stats to the actual typing of the moves? Obviously, it's something they fixed quite a bit in later gens, but here in these early gen games, you sometimes sit here and say like, wow, my same type moves are really not that good. So we're gonna have to see how this one actually actually goes as we go through this section. Now, I will skip the move Fire Spin, and like I said, I will skip the move Smog because I think they're just trash moves that aren't really going to help us all that much. But we'll just have to see. We're going to change things up once we actually hit a wall here with our moveset. But for now, I'm going to see if I can just manage to beat the Marlboro Man with like Ember and Headbutt strats. Let's see if it works. So first things first, we go for Headbutt on the first coughing and crit to one-shot. I think we stick with the Headbutt for the chance to flinch here. We can go Ember after that. I might just test on one of the coughings what Ember does. And sure enough, it's not strong enough to one-shot, so we're going to have to go for 2 hits. That justifies going for the Headbutt most of the time for the chance to flinch. We managed to get through the wheezing though. Now we're to the second to last coughing. It goes Smokescreen, but we still knock it out. And that brings us to the final coughing. And if we just hit a couple embers here, we will simply win. Sure enough, we get through on the first attempt with no real issues. And with that, we're ready to move on to Rival 4. I'm not sure how this is going to go, particularly against the Haunter. I'm just not sure if we're going to get the KO on it or not, but I think we mostly just spam away with the headbutts. Let's see if it's enough. So first up on the Golbat, I'm just going Headbutt right here. We do a little over half. We get confused after that, but we still move and knock that Pokemon out. Feraligatr comes out next. Water Gun doesn't do that much though. So while we are confused, it looks like we're going to get a 3-hit KO here as long as we don't hit ourselves every turn. Unfortunately, we do, so we're going to lose that first attempt. But let's try this again. This time we snap out of confusion and we flinch the Feraligatr the first turn, and we can simply knock it out in 3 hits from there as we get to level 38. Now we've got the Haunter in front of us. I go Ember, it goes Curse, but I think that's perfectly fine. We can now just go Ember on the Magnemite and destroy it, and that brings out the Sneasel. We can go Ember after it goes Quick Attack. We burn it, it goes Feint Attack and knocks me out because of the Curse. Are you kidding me? Let's try this one again. This time we get through Feraligatr with no damage because of a critical hit. So here we should have much better chances of getting through these last couple of Pokemon because we're on full health going to the Sneasel. So while yes, it can hit some random moves, we just knock it out in a single hit this time, and we're actually able to progress through the Rival within just a couple of resets. With that, we're now going to make our way through all these randos. I don't think they're going to be too hard, so I'm going straight to the end of this section. And sure enough, we make it to the final executive with no issues, so let's just take him down nice and easy and hopefully make our way on to Clair after this. So first up, we've got the Houndour. We go for the Headbutt here, easily destroying that Pokemon. The Coughing comes out next. I'll go Ember. It's not quite enough to one-shot, and we get poisoned, but we still take it down. Now the Houndoom comes out. We go Headbutt. It's going to be a 2-hit KO. It bites, but it's not enough. We easily get the victory, and we're able to move on in the game. So now it's on to Clair, and this is the part where I'm really most worried for this Pokemon, because unlike the previous Jolteon, for example, we have actual weaknesses to moves that we're going to see here. Plus, the Kingdra 4 times resists our same type moves. So we're going to have to see how this goes. I think there is a high likelihood that we actually end up having to go max power return here in order to get a victory, since obviously we can't really go Iron Tail against that Kingdra. I mean, Shadow Ball is also available as a physical move, which would make sense. It's a move that we might actually want in the next fight against Will, but I'm not sure if this is going to be a very easy fight. At least I think eventually we'll get through because we do have pretty good special defense, but I expect it to take a few resets at least. This is one where Flail could also come in really clutch if we manage to get on low HP and use that move in order to knock out the Kingdra, for example, but it's really going to depend on if we can survive long enough to actually use the move. The other strats to keep in mind are Mud Slap strats or possibly going Sunny Day strats in order to try to survive against the Surfs. So there are some options. I'm just not sure if any of them are going to be really great here. This might actually turn out to be the worst of the evolutions in this entire section, even though it is a member pick Pokemon. Still, we managed to get through to Clair with no issues, though it does look again like we're going to 2-hit KO against the Dragonairs. So I'm going to get rid of the Charcoal that I've been running this entire time and instead go with the Paralyzed Cure Berry. Let's just see if that gets us through this fight or not. So Clair attempt number 1, I go Headbutt on the first Dragonair. It hits Thunder Wave after that, but we still knock it out in 2 hits. We get to level 44 right here as the Kingdra comes out. I go Headbutt, we get the flinch. Headbutt again, it smoke screens. Now she's going for the Hyper Potion, but we're just going to continue headbutting here. She goes for Surf, dealing massive damage. Let's go Flail and knock that one out. That will bring us to the next Dragonair. We get a critical hit to one-shot it, and now the third Dragonair comes out. We miss, it misses. Now we've just missed multiple times, but it misses a slam, and that gives us the chance to actually survive and get the victory. So we beat Clair on the first attempt. We're on very low health, but hey, we'll take it. The headbutts did put in some work there with the flinches, and in the end, Kingdra also just kind of punted by going for a smokescreen that it didn't really need to go for, plus a timely crit, of course, to get the victory. That's what Clair's going to focus in on, you know, not anything about her strategy. It's entirely the timely crit. That's the only way that she can actually stomach that she lost, and that's what she's going to come down here and tell these old guys about. Like, come on, you know, clearly we must have hacked the game to get the critical hit at that point and to get the misses from her, even though she had no accuracy drops. The fact that Thunder Wave does miss 25% of the time when used on the player is pretty strong evidence of hacks, though. I will agree with her on that, but she can blame Game Freak for that, not me. Anyhow, we get through with yet another Pokemon on Clair. She still continues to not be able to wall a single Pokemon in this section of the game, so we'll take it. Now we just have to go beat up on the rival. I think we've got enough moves to get the job done. We could always throw on Shadow Ball at this point, like I said, and maybe that is the correct play. We'll just test everything and see, but I think we've got decent chances of getting through now, Shubham, and making it to the league. So Rival 5 attempts number 1 right here. I'm going straight for Ember on the Sneasel. We get the 1-hit KO there. Feraligatr comes out. We go Headbutt. We get the flinch. We flinch it again. So we just get the 3-hit KO on that Pokemon. Golbat comes out. We can go for the Headbutt, flinching that Pokemon as well. Now the Haunter comes out. This is where we're going to have to go for the Ember. It goes Curse, but I think we've got the victory here. We can just Headbutt against the Kadabra, completely destroying it. And now Magneton comes out. We go Ember, and we get the 1-hit KO. So the curse never really mattered. And just like that, we are to the league. Now we have to find out if we can actually get through the league with this Pokemon. It might be that Lancey Boy is the wall at the end of this because we just don't have any way to really match up well against those dragon types. But then again, Max Friendship Return, maybe with rare candies, could get this one through. We're about to learn Leer. That could actually be useful. I don't know. We're just going to have to test this and see. But for now, let me give a massive thank you to Shubham Varshney as well for supporting already 27 months supporting here on GSC Pokemon Challenges. Just absolutely incredible yet again. I get really kind of shocked when I read these thank yous that I added into the overlay earlier this year to see like how long some people have been supporting me and supporting what I've been doing here on GSC. It has been a very long journey getting to this point, getting all these Pokemon to the steps of the league. Of course, I've had a few times I've had to step away for family things. So it's just really, really encouraging to me as a creator when I see people who are supporting me for so long. I really can't thank you guys enough. Anyway, with that, we've finished another episode. Let's see what we got coming next time. We only have like a few episodes left, so we might do like one smaller one and one bigger one, or we might do like 3 episodes. I'm gonna have to look at how many Pokemon we got, but let's see what we've got coming at least next time in the next episode. So with another episode in the books, we now have 105 Pokemon that have legitimately gotten through the Clair section, plus 5 more that are down there in that Pass with Struggle column. 110 Pokemon have successfully beaten this section of the game. We add on that we've gotten 32 member picks, in fact 33, because that Pinsir should be down there. As I mentioned, my overlay's glitching out a little bit because it's not actually supported by anybody anymore, but that tells us that we are getting an awful lot of Pokemon through this part of the game. Next time, we're going to be coming back with 14 more Pokemon. I think I'm just going to make this like 2 episodes to finish this section out because we're up to 142 out of 171 Pokemon, including the member picks, being done at this point. So that leaves us with a little less than 30 Pokemon to still run. In fact, I think it's 1 less than that because of the fact that we've got, again, that Pinsir still showing there in the incomplete member member picks. But so next time I'm going to be coming back with a really big slate. It's going to be a really big episode, but I think this is the way to go so that we actually manage to get this done efficiently. Like I said, I want to get this done here this month in August. I want to be able to move on to Willy Boy and really get into some of this action. So let's do 14 Pokemon next time. We will be coming back with Porygon, which of course means we get Porygon 2 in on the action. We've got Aerodactyl, we've got Snorlax, we've got Piloswine, we've got the Little Gunfish, Remoraid, and Octillery coming in, Mantine, Skarmory, Houndour, and Houndoom. We're going to get the member pick Phanpy and the Donphan, and then we'll wrap up with the Stantler. I think this is another spot where we just have to say that everything probably gets through at this point. Of course, the member picks, the Remoraid and the Phanpy, are going to get a lot of support in order to get through. So while Phanpy might actually be really tough on Clair, I think it will eventually get the job done. Honestly though, if anything struggles here, it's going to have to be that Houndour. That is the Pokemon that I think there's the most chance that maybe Clair finds some way to actually be a bit of a wall to it. Everything else I have to think just eventually gets through. Like Piloswine, while it does have some weaknesses to water, there is going to have stab in ice type moves. At the very least, I think it goes Blizzard and eventually gets the job done. And I think we've just demonstrated through this entire series so many ways for Pokemon to actually succeed here that it's just hard to see anything actually struggling. There could be some weird spots, maybe some spots where we have to reset quite a few times. I'm not sure, but I do have a lot of confidence that this entire lot is just simply getting through, at least by burning rare candies on the weakest Pokemon. I think we will eventually get the job done. But definitely tell me your own predictions down below, especially if you think there's Pokemon that are gonna need rare candies, even if they don't fail. It's always fun to hear that. But with that, let's just finish this section out, finish it strong in 2 more episodes. So, you know, call it like another week or so that we'll have this all completed, hopefully, question mark. I may work in 1 or 2 other videos in the interim, but at least within the next 2 weeks, this will be done, and then we will be ready to move on to Willy Boy. So with that, let me just give a massive thank you to the channel members. Of course, everybody who supports all the way to the end of every video by watching, I cannot thank you enough. It's always a lot of fun to sit here and do these runs. But granted, the Clair section has been the most tedious and the one that has been, at least for me, the least interesting. At least in the previous sections, we always had a little bit of stress about maybe a Pokemon won't get through, or how do we route through the 3 gym leaders that we have in front of us. This section is just so linear that you just know, okay, I go from here to here to here, and that's how you progress. So we're just going to have to see how it actually works out in the end. But I think at the end of the day, we're basically going to arrive at the conclusion that Clair is actually the easiest gym leader in all of Johto. Like, just the easiest of all. Still, we'll definitely just have to see how that goes. Anyway, just want to say one last time, thanks to everybody. I will see you guys in the next one. Later.